everyone, how are you all doing? Good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Please let me know in the comments, in the live chat, what what jurisdiction you are joining us from, while I get everything ready for you. Give me a second. Now I can finally see you. We've got 200, 300 people tuning in. We have people that are in here from Norway, from California, from Texas, from Lebanon, Beirut, from Wisconsin, from the Netherlands, from California, from Northern California, from Budapest, Ecuador, Chicago, London, Hereford, Siberia, Sunshine Coast in Australia, Connecticut, the Caribbean, St. Vincent, Alberta, New Jersey, Bangladesh, St. Louis. It's going too fast. I can't even read it now. Okay, there. Hold on. I lost you. There we go. Sheffield, the UK, Pakistan, DC, Kansas, from Prague in the Czech Republic. Big Basil says from Romford, which is the arsehole of the world. That's great. That's wonderful. So guys, make sure that you've hit the thumbs up, you've hit the like button, and we'll dive right into it. Okay. So the first thing we're going to talk about, maybe you saw my tweet just now. Not a really nice subject, but hold on. Okay. Yeah. So this is really quite horrible, and it's breaking news. So what just happened is you had a graduation ceremony at a military academy in Syria, in Homs, and a drone came and killed. So this is a drone that was laden with explosives, right? A suicide drone. It was dropped on the graduation ceremony, killing over 100 people, and the figure is still rising. So right now, as of the moment I'm filming this, you have over 100 people dead and over 200 wounded. So on top of that, the Syrian defense minister was also attending the ceremony, and he left just a few minutes, around 15 to 20 minutes before the attack happened. So, you know, there's some debate here as to whether this was an assassination attempt or just trying to, you know, kill as many as possible from the army, which is reminiscent of many things, actually. I'll give you some examples in a second, because this is actually not the first time it happens in Syria. But I'm not going to show you the video because it's too much. It's very graphic, but you can see people were taking photos like with their families during the graduation ceremony, and you know, it's very indiscriminate, right? So this not just killed Syrian soldiers, but also their families and civilians, right? And a lot of people are upset. So if you think, if hypothetically, right, because let's say 100 soldiers, it's not just only soldiers, but that's like 100 families, and then, you know, you've got like 1,000 people that are impacted by this and so on. You know, it's really messed up. I think one of the reasons, or shall we say one of the potential reasons that this was done, so that you can see that photo that's from the graduation ceremony. I think one of the reasons was to take the wind out of Syria's sails, because you remember just a few days ago, and we're gonna look at a few clips in a moment, but you recall a few days ago, the president, Bashar al-Assad, visited China, right? And he was at the opening of the Asian Games, the opening ceremony. He met with Xi Jinping. They signed a strategic partnership. This, you know, China is an economic beast. It's set to overtake the United States and become the world's #1 economy. They're so afraid of China that they're already taking steps to quote unquote contain it. So it is very significant when you have the Syrian president visiting China, and he's been isolated internationally. Take that into consideration. And Syria has been destroyed, and Syria is in need of reconstruction, and Syria is occupied. So yeah, it is very, very significant that Syria be able to get back on its feet, and no less with the help of China. So I'm trying to suggest, hypotheses as to why this could have happened. Another obvious one, which I mentioned earlier, is that maybe it was an assassination attempt. Who knows? Could have been. The thing is that when you're firing something like this, it's not going to be that precise, and it's so indiscriminate that it killed, as I said, and killed and wounded, hundreds of people. So you could also argue that it was just meant to attack the military. And actually in Syria, you had something just like this in Aleppo in 1979 at the artillery school. There was a massacre. You had, I think, around 79 killed. So same kind of deal, right? Like they attacked a military academy on purpose. And back then it was the Muslim Brotherhood, right? So the Ikhwan Muslimin. So Muslim Brotherhood is, created by Britain, and very, very strong in Egypt, in Turkey, Qatar, and we talked about this before, but there was an uprising back then. So they were doing these terrorist attacks all across Syria, and that was one of them. In Iraq, if you remember, in the last couple of years after ISIS took over, one of the most one of the nastiest things they did was this infamous massacre of hundreds of Iraqi soldiers who were executed, and this was also targeted at just getting rid of as many soldiers as possible. So you've had things like this before, and it's not unreasonable to think it be the same or to liken it. Now the Syrian army basically have started responding by bombing the crap out of Idlib. So okay, I'm again going to pull out the map for you. Idlib is the part that Turkey is occupying in the north. Okay, so it's believed that the drone came from that direction. And so there, I've told you before, Idlib is not just occupied by Turkey, it's controlled by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which is Al-Qaeda. Okay, so yeah, you can see here, that's Idlib. Okay, so Idlib city and also the government, and this entire area is controlled by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which is Al-Qaeda, and you also have various groups like the Turkmenistan, so basically the TIP, which is, it used to be considered a terrorist group in the US, and then they removed it. And I think it has something to do with the fact that you have 4,000 or 5,000 Uyghurs who've come all the way to Syria to fight against the government. And I think the Trump administration wanted this group to also cause trouble for the Chinese, and so they removed it from the FTO list. In any case, you also have the Syrian National Army in Idlib, which it sounds like that's actually the official or the conventional armed forces in Syria, but they're not. The quote-unquote Syrian National Army is actually just a group created by Turkey, and also present and found in Idlib. So, you can take your pick and of who carried this out, and obviously we haven't touched on the other countries and their roles, but I just want to show you some of the videos from today. where they've started bombing Idlib. I understood that the electricity is also out. The power is out.
راجل كامل على أريحة. اللهم سلم يا رب.
Yeah, you can see the size and the scale of the operation. It's enormous. And here, this is, it's going all the way into the night. Still going. Yeah, I would not want to be in Idlib tonight, I can tell you that. So now, of course, you will have Israel and the United States and Turkey, who also might be potential assailants, right? Because the United States, let's look at who benefits from this situation, right? As I told you, these groups, which, by the way, all of them are funded and or controlled by Israel, the United States, Turkey, and then, of course, when it was a few years back in the war, they were even more numerous. But the United States is the country that, and along with Israel, that would be the most angry with seeing Bashar al-Assad go to China, for example, right? So if we're talking about this in a geopolitical sense of what's going on, they're not going to, respond with, a letter. They're not going to send him a letter. They do things like this in politics, sometimes, well, always actions speak louder than words. So this is the kind of stuff that you will see also when, Iran is doing well, or they're collaborating with Syria in some aspect, and then the Israelis or the Americans will start going and bombing the resistance groups inside of Syria, or the Americans will also bring Al-Qaeda and Daesh out from the desert and ferry them in by chopper, basically, because they have this airbase in El Tanaf. So you have special forces carrying, essentially giving ISIS a taxi ride into the desert, into Palmyra, and then picking them up when they're done. And you've seen over and over, every couple of months, they're ambushing, specifically ISIS, they're ambushing these buses full of Syrian soldiers. And not even a year ago, you had a bus in Damascus carrying Syrian soldiers that was also blown up. So my point here is that you have a pattern of Syrian soldiers, whether they're fresh recruits in the academy, or, well, they're graduated, excuse me, whether they're fresh graduates or, they're on their way from point A to point B, moving across the desert, they're being targeted, right? And this is not the first time it happens. It's a tactic that we saw during the Muslim Brotherhood uprising. So, I really don't doubt that to some extent the Americans could have had anything to do with this, because whether they're knocking the wind out of the army sails or going after the defense minister, they all benefit from this, right? I'll show you just some other interesting incidents today in Syria as well. The Americans shot down a Turkish drone, okay? Today was a very, very busy day in Syria. I'm not joking. Several weird things happening all at once. So this is the video of the Turkish drone being shot down. Now, what's happening? What's happening here? I'll explain to you what's happening here. This is the Americans telling Turkey to back off. Not because, they don't like Turkey. Remember, these are two NATO countries. So the reason is just that it's a territorial thing. The United States don't want Turkey coming into the area that the United States controls in Syria, which is 1/3 of Syria, and of course where the Kurds are. Turkey considers the Kurds in Syria to be linked to the Kurds in Turkey, the Kurdish Workers' Party, and basically an extension of them. And in Turkey, the Kurdish Workers' Party is a terrorist group in their point of view. So for them, in Turkey's point of view, going into Syria and killing Kurds is good for them and their national security. Like that is their logic, right? Which is, yeah, I mean, it's madness. So in any case, the Americans, it's not that they care about the Kurds. No, it's that they are here in this area. Okay, so you see the Euphrates River? Everything to the east, all of this, right? So Hasake, Deir Zor, this entire area here, where you have all the oil, this is controlled by the United States. And Turkey is all the way over here. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor, but the Turks are all the way over here in Idlib. You know, on the other side of Syria, basically. So the United States just shut down the drone because it came too close and they don't want Turkey in their business. That's basically it. It's that simple. Now, again, another thing, Turkey, again, with drones, bombed a power station in Hasake, right? So here it is. Here's a video. Yeah, it's been quite an eventful day, and everything using drones. I don't know. I find this attack really messed up because the fact that you have to wonder who it was, and there's like 50 different possibilities. It kind of shows you how bad and serious the situation is, right? Like, it's crazy that you have to think, well, was it the Americans? Maybe it was the Israelis. Maybe it was Turkey. Maybe it was a group that is funded by Turkey. Maybe it was a group funded by the United States. Maybe it was ISIS. Maybe it was... who the hell knows? That's the problem. That is the problem. And, you know, the fact that this is a graduation ceremony, so you know that people are going to bring their families there. So I think whoever planned this, and this definitely was planned, must have known that, okay, it's not just soldiers that are going to be caught and killed. It's going to be soldiers and their families, because it's a graduation ceremony, right? So there's something very sick about that, you know, something very sinister. So I'm not going to tell you definitively who it was because I really genuinely don't know. But I think the fact that they're bombing Idlib in response and that the drone is reported to have come from that direction because it flew 120 kilometers, they're saying. Yeah. So, you know, you have to ask yourself, well, who possesses this kind of technology and who has the incentive to use it? Who is in that direction? The Americans, obviously, they have people everywhere, but their troops are not in that direction. It's Turkey, and it's the groups that Turkey supports, right? So, as I said, HTS or SNA, there's Turkmenistan party as well, Islamist party, so the one with 4,000, 5,000 Uyghurs. These are all groups that have been classified as terrorist groups, you know, in the EU, in the US. Now, just because they put them on a list doesn't mean they you know, that they don't work. You know, just because the United States puts, let's say, I don't know, Al-Qaeda or ISIS on a terrorist list, it doesn't mean that they're not going to go behind the scenes and work with them, either directly or by proxy. So, you know, because if you look at what happened in Europe, whether it's in Madrid or it's in London or it's in Paris or even 9/11, you know, or in Germany, every single time there's a terrorist attack, the assailants, every one of them is already known to the security services and the intelligence agencies, every single one of them. And they just so happen, I love the touch that one of them dropped a Syrian passport in Germany, you know, that 9/11 touch. The 2 skyscrapers come down, but her passport survives. They should build planes out of the passport material. I'd like to know what that was. You know, they used that again in Germany. They thought I forgot. I didn't forget. So, you know, my point here is that there's something really wicked and weird about that. You know, and they just like basically do nothing. They have them on record. They know who they are, but they just let them do whatever they want. They just never ever manage to actually do something to stop them beforehand. I don't know. I find that weird. At the very least, it's incompetence. Can we agree on that? If it's not bizarre or something fishy about it, then at least say, you know, let's agree that they're incompetent. In any case, you know, Jolani, who is running HTS, you guys remember I showed you this interview and watched through it first and suffered through it, where I believe it was PBS, right? They did an interview with the head of Al-Qaeda in Syria, who's Jolani. And this guy is, you know, they dressed him up in a suit, which is funny because, you know, they tried to like make him look like some kind of gentleman when he's a terrorist. He even has a bounty on his head in the United States. And PBS obviously, you know, they had to have some shady contacts to get into Syria illegally through Turkey, and then also be able to get past HTS and sit down with the goddamn leader and film him for an hour and speak with him. You don't just get access to someone like that without you know, some friends in dark places. In any case, you know, it was really like some kind of, you know, besides the fact that he looked funny in a suit, it's like they were trying to make Western audiences warm up to him, you know, or rather warm to him and kind of, you know, make him look like an acceptable terrorist, right? Anyway, he, as I said, is running HTS, and HTS are in Idlib, and that's where this drone came from today. So there's really a bunch of possibilities here, and any one of them could be correct. Any one of them could be true. You know, I don't think that as much as Turkey would perhaps like to, I don't think that they would straight up do it themselves. It could very well be that they simply, you know, accidentally left this technology lying around, and it ended up in the hands of one of these groups accidentally. And of course, they do things by proxy. You have to remember, the whole war in Syria is by proxy. Every group that works there is there on behalf of somebody else. Okay, that's how the whole war works. You know, a lot of these groups are now gone, or they integrated and assimilated with other groups. But you had Faylaq al-Sham, I think, which was Muslim Brotherhood, so funded by Qatar, and you know, other Salafi and jihadist groups that were funded by the US or by England, or you know, by Turkey or by Israel. Al-Qaeda was working with Israel, and you know, it's always by proxy. Nevertheless, you do have countries there directly now, you know, since 2019, and things have, although the front line hasn't changed, things in Syria are changing, because you're seeing a process of assimilation now, and you're seeing the president being brought back into the fold a lot, not just with Arab countries, but now, as I was saying, with China, with Russia, with Iran. So he went and visited those countries. He visited Saudi Arabia. He visited the UAE. All of this in the span of barely 1 year. So that is very, very significant. And the only countries that are looking at this and getting very annoyed and angry at this are the United States and Israel. And of course, Turkey, it's very difficult with Turkey to gauge them, because they're not just geographically, well, like Syria at a crossroads, but Turkey is both a NATO country and a good friend of Russia's, right? Turkey is, both Asian and European. So they're always trying to walk a very, very fine and thin line and please both sides, or rather, keep going without pissing them both off. So Turkey wants to normalize ties with Syria, and I think Erdogan said as much publicly, that he would like to meet with Bashar al-Assad, and then al-Assad responded that he will meet with him only when Turkey leaves Syria. So, they want to normalize ties again, but I think it's because they see how things are going now, on the world stage, and how they don't really have a choice anyway, so they might as well just get it over with. Yeah? So just keep in mind that various actors all have this incentive to carry out attacks like this. It doesn't necessarily have to be an assassination, because killing groups, groups of Syrian soldiers in large quantities, has been done many times before. It's been done also in Iraq, which is next door. I mean, it's really, really nasty stuff. Just to call it anything other than a terrorist attack. I mean, when you attack a graduation ceremony, I really don't know what else you can call that. In the media, the way that they're reporting on this in the mainstream media now, they're not calling it that. They say, oh, there was a drone strike, and on the other hand, now that the Syrian army is responding by bombing Idlib, then they say, oh, look at what the Russian and the Syrian jets are doing in Idlib. They're killing civilians. Yeah, well, what just happened? There's civilians who were killed at the graduation ceremony. You didn't seem so upset about that. It's always like this. They don't really give you the full picture of what happened, but then as soon as there's a reaction or a response, then the cameras are there. They've got the footage. They've got the analysts, and then they'll really start playing, on your heartstrings, and yeah. So very sad. It's like I said, this was intentional. I don't know if it was an assassination or not, but it's kind of screwed up that now it's 12 years since the war in Syria began, and you still have things like this, and it's like nothing's getting better. I mean, again, I was saying that things are getting better, but this is a reminder that, well, things like, terrorist attacks and bombings, they could just happen at a moment's notice. So on the ground, not in terms of geopolitics, but on the ground, is it really better? No. The sanctions are very bad, and these attacks are, still happening. So yeah, it's very sad. I see we've got about 600-700 people that have just tuned in. So please make sure that you've hit the like button, the thumbs up. I was going to make a joke. I wanted to make fun of the people that you find in the Syrian opposition, because I swear to God, I am kidding, but they really think like this. And if you go online and look for it, you'll find it. You will have people right this second who will be saying that Bashar al-Assad is actually the one who caused the drone strike on the military academy and killed 100 people. This is like how they think. Everything is his fault. It's Iran's fault as well. And they really think like this. They're just like obsessed with al-Assad. They're his biggest fans. So hold on. Let me show you something else. This is from a few days ago, okay? And it really captures the... So I want to show you just how much Holocaust denial and historical revisionism there is in the mainstream media from government officials in the West. It's just like right out in the open, you know? So you had the anniversary a few days ago of the Babyn Yar massacre, okay? So this was in Ukraine during World War II, and Blinken, the US Secretary of State, wrote this. He said, quote, 82 years ago, Nazis murdered 34,000 Jews at Babyn Yar. Soviets buried this history. Soviets buried this history, which today Putin's government manipulates to provide cover for Russia's abuses in Ukraine. The United States is committed to justice for Holocaust survivors and accountability for atrocities. Okay, I mean, I don't even know where to begin. He says that Soviets buried this history. Dude, the Soviets are the reason that you and I know about this history. The Soviets are the ones who liberated Auschwitz. They even kindly asked the victims in the camps if they could step back inside the huts for a second so they can film and document what is happening and what had happened at Auschwitz, to show like how, you know, just horrific it was. They made sure, the Soviets made sure to document this, because remember, if you look at the victims in the Holocaust, the 6 million, 3 million of them are Polish. And I think it's Putin who said this, that, you know, the bulk of them were citizens, you know, of Russia. So his point is ludicrous here, that Blinken says the Soviets buried this history. No, they didn't. It is literally the complete opposite. And when I say Auschwitz, I'm giving you one example. It's actually the Soviets are the ones who reached Berlin first. Okay, do I have to remind people of this? So, you know, a lot of the concentration camps they had liberated along the way, and they documented all of these crimes against humanity. And so, I would expect better from the U.S. Secretary of State, and especially Blinken, who is Jewish, and I think his stepfather is Polish and survived the Holocaust. So, you know, I would expect him to know better. I would expect him to tell the truth. This is not correct that the Soviets buried this history. What a load of rubbish. On the contrary, and also he says that the Nazis murdered 34,000 Jews at Babyn Yar. Yes, it's correct, but they also murdered other people who were not Jews necessarily. People who are maybe from Poland, communists. They rounded up all the people that the Nazis hated. And another key factor here that he's not telling you, I love the irony, right? Like, he's accusing the Russians of burying the history when he's actually doing it. Ukrainian Nazis are the ones, they were key perpetrators in this massacre. They helped the Germans carry out this massacre. And I'm going to show you this testimony from one of the guys who survived this, and you can hear it from him. All right?
В октябре 1941 года было объявление дано по всему Киеву, чтобы все евреи, не только киевляне, а живущие вокруг Киева, собрались все в районе еврейского кладбища. Это в конце улицы Дегтяревской и Сирецкой. Значит, с собой иметь теплые вещи на 2 недели, дорогостоящие предметы, как золото, серебро, бриллианты, деньги и дорогостоящие меха. Вот с этим объявлением евреи народ очень такой исполнительный. Все мы явились к 8 утра к Бабьему Яру, то есть к еврейскому кладбищу, за еврейским кладбищем было Бабий Яр, так называемый. Но когда мы подошли к еврейскому кладбищу, там лежало 3 доски, мы должны были переступить эти доски. У меня, правда, был мешок с этим самым сухарями. Там нужно было доску перейти. И в это время не немцы, а украинцы, украинские националисты, они мерзавцы, между прочим, уникальные.
Западные украинцы?
Да, но это в основном были, они же с немцами пришли в Киев.
Пришли с Запада?
Да, до Западной Украины, конечно. Они сорвали с меня наволочку, в которой были сухари. И в это время я увидел страшную вещь. Страшная картина. Пока я еще стоял на доске, я увидел, как немец вырвал у старика, еврея, на руках был внучек. А этот еврей, старик, он еще, он снял штаны, но он еще был, извините, в нижнем белье. И он у него вырвал этого ребеночка и вынул зайтенгевер, называется по-немецки, штык, и одел его на штык. И этот старик обезумел и бросился к этому немцу, схватил его за глотку. В это время подошел один офицер, и этого, не знаю, кто он там, младший командир, немец, он ударил его по физиономии. Это очевидно не потому, что он защищал евреев, потому что он хотел его предупредить, что он делает, ведь сзади евреи же видят все. Они упираться не будут идти. Он его стукнул по физиономии. Когда он одел ребеночка на штык, я понял, что нас будут убивать. И все подошли вот к этому. Мне этот украинец сказал: давай скорее проходи. И я прошел, и я же понял, что там за колючей проволокой, за еврейским кладбищем уже убегать мне никуда нельзя. И в это время собралась... Там очень много было евреев. Кстати, у нас, я уже поздно вечером пришел, нас не раздевали. Я был в одежде. До этого, за час, за два всех раздевали.
Совсем раздевали?
Да, совсем. Даже такой маленький мальчик подошел к немцу и говорит: дяденька, я не могу...
Успокойтесь, Давид.
Дяденька, а чулки нужно тоже снимать. А ребенку 6 лет или 5 лет. Понимаете, он немца спрашивает, или чулки снимать надо. В общем, короче говоря, там была группа 100 человек, и еще 100 человек, которые голые мы уже одетые были. И запустили 20 собак, овчарок. И эти овчарки стали кусать людей за ноги, и поэтому люди бежали вперед. И вы извините, что я расстроился. Ну, они...
Трудно не расстроиться.
Да. Они...
Тяжкие воспоминания.
Да. Они... кусали людей за руки, и девочки лет 16-14 кричали: за что мы немцам ничего не сделали плохого, но почему над нами так издевается. Они создавали динамику, чтобы эта толпа людей ближе подошла к обрыву. С той стороны обрыва стояли 10 немецких, 10, может быть, 12, я не знаю, а с автоматами.
А по ходу движения не было видно?
Нет.
Это в последний момент уже?
Это перед самым обрывом.
Там такой проход был?
Уступ есть, и яр, понимаете?
И на последний момент это не видно было?
Не видно, там? Да. Они были слышны выстрелы, частые выстрелы, но кто в кого стрелял, понятия не имели. И когда я подошел к брустверу и увидел внизу 45 метров, 45 или 50 метров, я не мог измерить, но такая была глубина. Я увидал лежащую женщину, мертвую, еврейку. На ней лежал маленький ребеночек, может быть, ему было год или 2, и он мамин сосал бюст, грудь, да. Но он жил, а мама была убита. И я, когда увидал этот ужас, до этого я видел, когда на штык надели, я потерял сознание. И каким образом я очутился внизу, я не знаю. Но я знаю точно, что я упал с этой высоты вниз.
До выстрела?
До выстрела. И когда 2 или 3 дня, может быть, 4 дня я пролежал без сознания под трупами, спустились немцы, группа немцев, и стали достреливать тех, которые были раненые, которые еще стонали, не каждого попала же пуля.
Они проверяют.
Да, кто стонал, того не достреливали. Такой был пистолет у них, вот здесь я в Яд Вашеме видел, парабеллум называется. Они из этого очень...
Многозарядные.
Да, да, да. Ну, такой немецкий именно пистолет. И они достреливали вот этих всех евреев, которые еще жили. И один немец стал мне на ноги. И он потому что же не знал, что я жив. И я очнулся. От потери сознания я пришел в себя. И я, чтобы боль заглушила мой крик, я укусил себе за палец. Вот за этот палец.
Боль была ужасная.
Страшнее была смерть. Я же знал, что я приму после крика, я приму смерть. Ну, так я 2 или 3 суток потом пролежал по трупам, и на мне еще было 2 слоя трупов. Я когда вышел через Петропавловский тупик на Куреневку, я был весь в крови. Они были ранены, и кровь на меня
Они
сочилась.
не засыпаны еще было.
Нет, они засыпали только через 2, через 3 дня.
I mean, I don't even know what to say about that's hell. That's hell. And the Ukrainian auxiliary police, which was, you know, a unit created to serve the Nazis, helped round up Ukrainian Jews for this massacre and others like it. And the 14th Waffen-SS that you know, they were celebrating in the Canadian Parliament is another example of, you know, a unit of Ukrainian Nazis that are today being normalized by the mainstream media and also by politicians in the West. And I'm not going to tolerate this. I'm sorry, because there are too many people who went through this kind of crap, this hell, like you saw this man recall, and also the death toll of the Soviet Union. I mean, 27 million people, just so today we can have politicians like, you know, Justin Trudeau, who honor a stinking Nazi and then pretend like, oh, it was a gaffe, and then the next morning they just go right back to giving Nazis in Ukraine weapons and trying to whitewash these scumbags like they did with Daesh and Al-Qaeda in Syria, trying to whitewash you know, these terrorists and tell you, oh, these are just like, they're freedom fighters who are you know, they're just trying to bring democracy and get rid of Bashar al-Assad, the big bad meanie dictator. Go to hell with this childish nonsense. You know, it's insulting. It's really insulting. And the Speaker of the House of the you know, in a parliamentary system, right? So like we have in England, the Canadians have the same thing. They have a Speaker in the House, and he actually resigned after this scandal. And well, I mean, I think it's the least he could do. He only resigned not because he regrets it, but because people realized what he had done. And, you know, this guy was happily reading out the statement, right? Like saying that, oh, Hunka is, you know, a brave Ukrainian who fought against the not Nazis, Russians in World War II. What? Look, man, if you're fighting the Russians in World War II, you're a Nazi. This is as easy as putting 2 and 2 together, okay? This is very simple to work out. You're the goddamn Speaker. How, you know, he was grinning. You know, I swear, it looked like some movie. It looked like some Twilight Zone episode. And I heard, I couldn't confirm this because the post is gone, so I don't know if it's 100% true. But listen, I heard that Trudeau actually met with this Ukrainian Nazi, the 96-year-old, so in addition, right, to them applauding and giving him a standing ovation in the House, and this is actually his granddaughter who had posted the photos online on Facebook and said, "Oh, we're about to meet Trudeau, and I'm so happy and excited for my grandfather," and all these things. And Trudeau is lying now and saying that he never met him. Probably, it's probably true, and he's probably lying to save his career, right? And he let the speaker take the fall. That's the thing, though. Like I said, it's bad enough that this whole thing happened, but the even bigger issue is that they are happily giving Nazis weapons. Even if you look at the Ukrainian armed forces and you say, well, Azov and all these like far right and Nazis, they're only a tiny percentage. Yeah, okay, but they're still Nazis. You shouldn't be giving them weapons, and you don't even know where these weapons are really going in 5 years, 10 years. Is there going to be a splinter group like Al Qaeda from splintering off from the Mujahideen and running off with all the training and intelligence and information and weapons that you gave them, and then doing this and that? You have no clue what you're doing. This is even worse because the amount of weapons, the amount of money that is flowing here, and that we're talking about, is so much worse. Let me show you what I'm talking about with this granddaughter and the Nazi's granddaughter. So look at this. This is the post, okay? So she says Dado is waiting in the reception hall for Trudeau and Zelensky. So he met apparently both with Trudeau and with Zelensky. Given the fact that they literally gave this Nazi a standing ovation, I'm more than inclined to believe that he did meet with Trudeau and with Zelensky. Yes, I absolutely 100% believe this, because they just applauded a Nazi in the House. So yeah, it's probably true. And Zelensky, in case you hadn't noticed, has faced zero criticism for this. It's like yes, Trudeau should definitely not just be criticized. He should be chastised for applauding a goddamn Nazi. The thing is, though, that Zelensky is the Ukrainian president. He is the one that commands these units, right? However, like little they want to, make you believe they are in the Western press. Oh, it's just a few units. I don't care. Is Zelensky not commanding them? I don't give a rat's ass that he's Jewish. I just showed you a testimony from a Ukrainian Jew explaining what happened to him in Kiev, in the capital, because of the Germans collaborating with other Ukrainians, with Ukrainian Nazis, with the Ukrainian auxiliary police, and various other units to carry out these massacres. So, don't come here and tell me like, well, a couple of Nazis is okay. No, it's not. And neither is a couple of jihadists, or a few extremists in the Free Syrian Army. No, it's not a few. That's a lie, and it's not acceptable. And I'm pretty sure that this happened. Look, I want to show you that a video. This is Putin talking about the incident, okay? Because these things are all related, right? Not only did they happen in the same week, this thing from Blinken where he's saying the Soviets buried the history of a Holocaust massacre, when it's actually the opposite. The Soviets are the ones who documented all of this and liberated the camps. They did that. Okay? In addition to that, in German media like Tagesschau, they were also talking about the Babin Yar massacre that happened in Ukraine and Kiev. They were talking about it without mentioning the fact that, you had other victims among them. So you had also people who were, so the majority of them were Jewish, but you had also other people, Rome or Poles or, just communists or Russians. And then also at the same time hiding the fact that the perpetrators of the massacre included not only German units, but also Ukrainian Nazi units, police and military. Okay, so they're basically lying by omission. And I want to show you this short clip from Putin and his thoughts on this whole scandal in Canada.
Мы относимся к Канаде, несмотря ни на что, с уважением, особенно к людям. Но если он не знает, что что во время войны против России сражался Гитлер и его приспешники, то он идиот.
I think that
Он, значит, просто в школе не учился, не имеет элементарных знаний. А если он знает, что этот человек сражался на стороне Гитлера, и называет его героем Украины и героем Канады, то он негодяй. Или так, или так.
Geroim. Okay, I guess that means hero in Russian. Just learned a new word. In any case, I wholeheartedly agree with this assessment, and I came to the same conclusion. These people are either pig shit ignorant, which is scandalous. It is scandalous that you could be the Prime Minister of Canada or the Speaker of the House and not know that your own country fought against the Nazis and alongside the Soviets in World War II. How can you not know this? This is not just scandalous. It's a scandal within a scandal, within another scandal. Russian dolls now. And I don't think it's that. I think that they genuinely were happy that this guy had fought Russians because they just want to kill Russians, and they've become so accustomed now to just openly praising Nazi elements, whether they're contemporary, basically disciples or a continuation of Bandera, or one that's even one that's like they went and got a real live Ukrainian Nazi to come to the parliament, which is just like, wow, the effort that must have taken, Probably not a lot, given that they have, I think, about 10,000 of them who came over to Canada. Usually the Nazis that went to South America tried to stay hidden and keep quiet. But apparently, if you went to Canada, you can now proudly say, you were a Nazi and that you fought the Russians in World War II. Wow. It's not just the fact that they are lying by omission in the media and like this tweet from Blinken, which is, it's Holocaust denial, it's historical revisionism, it's insulting their own country's legacy of having, the USA and Canada having fought in World War II with the Soviets against the Nazis, and insulting all those people, from the United States and Canada who and the Soviet Union, of course, and England, all of the allies. It's just degradation of the entire West. The West is not just declining economically and morally. It's just intellectually declining. You cannot be a prime minister of a major country like Canada. You cannot be the speaker and not know these things, or even to utter them is unforgivable, truly unforgivable. I don't understand. I don't know what to say anymore. They reach a low and they just find other ways of going even lower. How disappointing. We've got 800 people watching. Please, guys, make sure that you've clicked the like button, the thumbs up. We've also we're also live on Rockfin. We're live on Odyssey. We're live on Rumble. Live everywhere at the same time. So if you're subscribed on YouTube, please make sure you subscribe on Rockfin or on Rumble or on Odyssey or vice versa. It's always good to have a backup. And let me see. We actually got a super chat over here. Let me try and find this and read it to you. And I'm also going to check on PayPal if we got anything. If you guys have any comments or you have any questions or remarks. Okay, so over here we've got one. We've got a super chat from Garrett. It says, "Love your show. Stay tuned. Thanks a lot, sir." Well, thank you. I appreciate it very much. Thank you, Garrett. Also, guys, right now on Patreon, because it's the start of the month, it always goes down a bit. We're just a few members short, actually, of having hit 750, and now we've bounced back down to 7. It's not loading for me, but just by memory, I think it was 710. So basically, we are 40 people short to hit the goal. Now, look, we've got almost 800 people watching. So, guys, I'm asking you to please support my work. If you find my work informative, or you know, gain some knowledge, you just found my rants interesting, whatever it is, or you just want to support independent media, please consider donating. It could be $1 a month. It could be £20 a month. Anything you like, on Patreon.com or on, or just do a one-time thing on PayPal or in YouTube right now in the chat. A lot of you, I saw, by the way, we're doing super thanks, which is like a donation on a YouTube video that is not a live stream, which is really cool. Thank you for that. I appreciate it very much. So in any case, thank you guys for supporting my work. I couldn't do it without you. Let's see what we have next. Right, so this is something about Zelensky, and I want to show it. I want to kind of go through this with you, okay? So Zelensky's wife purportedly went to Cartier in New York City and spent $1 million on jewelry, okay? And in the process, she managed to get somebody who works there fired, and she is the one who actually posted the receipt. So I'll play this video, and here. Okay, there's a bit of text and then she starts speaking.
About a week ago, the wife of the president of Ukraine, Olena Zelensky, came to the nation. It was during their visit to New York. When I showed her some of our pieces, she just shouted at me directly on my face. Who said that I need your opinion? I was just like, I told her I need to take different approach, but she just asked for the manager. I don't know what she said to him, but the next day I got fired. What the fuck? I got a copy of the receipt. That is it. I made it when I was packing my fucking stuff.
Oh man. I like the way she curses, honestly. Anyway, here's a copy of here's a copy of the receipt. Now listen, there it is, okay? So yeah, all in all, it's actually $1.1 million. Now, is that impossible? Is it unlikely? You know, is it even surprising? No, not at all. If you guys recall, Zelensky, before he became some kind of, you know, quote unquote hero that you're supposed to worship, before they idolized him in the Western mainstream garbage press, he was implicated in the Panama Papers. Do you remember what those were? They had these, you know, these giant stories in The Guardian, and you had a whole bunch of outlets working together as collectives on these papers, showing how various leaders, world leaders, were, you know, dumping their money in the Cayman Islands and you know, in Panama and so on, and all these tax havens. It's so funny because they put Putin on one of the covers, and he had literally nothing to do with the story. It was about a friend of Putin, but because, you know, Putin is evil and they want you to read the stupid article, you know, they plaster his face on the front cover. I mean, that is. I don't know how you can go through all this effort of breaking a story like that and then ruin it with garbage on the front cover, which is, again, the guy has literally nothing to do with the story. Zero. He's a guy who Putin apparently knows, but there's no connection other than that he knows him. Okay, so what? Why didn't you put Zelensky's gardener then on the fucking front page, given that, you know, Zelensky was implicated in the... They ended up just putting Zelensky. You know why? Because the story's about him. So in any case, I just wanted to give that mini rant because it's so stupid and annoying. They've been doing this before the war even, you know, oh, Putin this, Putin that, you know. So in any case, yeah, Zelensky is stinking rich, obviously, and I think it was in the mainstream press, they not only openly said that, oh, there are Nazis in Ukraine, they also said Ukraine is a very corrupt country. Not that people in Ukraine are corrupt. No, the government, the people that are in power are corrupt. I mean, let's cut them some slack, because that's true everywhere, in every country. But they were saying it's especially corrupt, okay? In any case, my point is that given the fact that Zelensky, we know he's rich because of the Panama Papers, we know that he's receiving tons of money now from the aid, right? Although obviously the bulk of that does not go anywhere near Zelensky. It goes to the arms industry, it goes to Wall Street, and so on. My point here is just that Zelensky, he goes around saying that we need these weapons, like we really, really, really need it. He even makes the case that it's so necessary to have these weapons that Europe's the fate of the free world depends on it, right? Like that's how important and critical it is that you give him this money, because he's not asking for pennies. This guy's asking for billions. He wants goddamn billions. You give him a helmet, he says, give me a vest. You give him a vest, he says, give me some boots. You give him the boots, he says, give me a rifle. You give him the rifle, he says, how about a tank? That's how it went. And then you give him a tank, he says, I want F-16s. He'll be asking for nukes soon enough. In any case, actually, Ukraine used to have nuclear weapons and they gave them up, which is quite admirable, honestly. But in any case, I don't think they could have used them for technical reasons. But my point here is just that if you're so desperate and strapped for cash, and I know it's obviously, 1.1 million in jewelry is not the same as not 300, but let's say 80 billion. I know these two figures are, they're incomparable, but nevertheless, he is saying that it's so critical. Okay, well, dude, is your family fighting in this war? You've drafted all the men between 18 and 60 years old. Every male has to go. That's how desperate it is, whether they like it or not. And you're asking for these billions. You go to every goddamn country and ask for these billions, and you ask that they put the security of the whole world at risk, That's how important it is. Okay, well, why don't you donate why is your wife going to New York City and buying $1.1 fucking million of jewelry when you're supposed to be busy fighting this super important war that is so important that, we might nuke each other, us and the Russians, and the whole world will die. Do I need to explain this? I think it's self-explanatory. His wife shouldn't be going around buying this jewelry. She should know that all eyes are on her now. She can't just do this and she gets somebody fired at the same time. Now you have people saying, "Oh well, this is not true. Actually, this whole story is fake." And here's they have this feature now on Twitter, these community notes, and this one is my favorite. Apparently, this is what they say. They say that it's a hoax, most likely from a Nigerian website. Like they couldn't think of anything better. Like, what can we? Nigerian print? No, okay, Nigerian website. And they say underneath that basically the date on the receipt is September 22nd, while the Zelenskys were in Washington, D.C. on September 21st and arrived in Canada in the evening. I mean, that doesn't really mean anything. It could still be true. Sometimes they give you the receipt well afterwards. I don't see how that disproves this. And in any case, for a fact that Zelensky himself had to fire recruiters. He had to fire people within the defense ministry. So people from his cabinet during this war because of corruption, because they were stealing money. I mean, look, I couldn't care less about what his wife spends her money on. I really don't care. It's just that he is going around and people are paying more for bread. The price of rent has gone up all over the place. Whether you're in London or you're in Washington, gas is more expensive. Electricity, my electricity bill went up 113% or 110%. Right? I told you guys at the time. all because of this war, all because they want to sanction Russia and they want to give all this money to Ukraine instead of giving it to the people that actually need it, right? Like what they were doing in France, for example, and they did this in many European countries, is they would give you like 200 euros in cash. Yeah, okay, it's not enough. It's just not enough. This doesn't help. And I would, I would much rather there are no sanctions and no war with Russia and everybody just calm down. So Ukraine is costing everybody this money. Although, again, we can't blame Ukraine 100% because it's mostly Washington and London. But my point is just that if you're going to spend all this money on jewelry, at least, make an effort like not to fire people while you do it and ruin their lives. And also, not to do it while also asking for billions from the world and claiming it's super necessary. This, even at the start of the war, you had people doing GoFundMes and raising, doing crowdfunding so they could give their money to Ukrainians to buy weapons. If you did that, if you did that to help Palestinians or, people in South Lebanon, you would be convicted of terrorism like that, So these double standards need to be pointed out. When you're asking your own country, if you're the president of Ukraine or any country, and you're asking your people to, to really pull their weight and accept harsh conditions and go and risk their lives, and and on top of it, asking the whole world to do the same for you, you can't just go and start flaunting it and spending millions on jewelry. This is not only tactless, it's disgusting. It's corrupt. That's what it is. That's what it is. Let me show you. This is for, okay, so this is also about, God. This is about Ukraine and the UK. All right, let me explain this to you. So, God. Yeah, okay. Now, you guys are going to love this one. You are going to love this one. Okay. So, in the UK, we have a new defense secretary. Okay, it's no longer Ben Wallace. It's someone called Grant Shapps. These ministers come and go like, changing socks, so I'm not really interested in knowing the bloody name. Now, his name is Grant Shapps, and basically this guy, the first day on the job, look what he does. Yeah, Shapps. Okay. You guys see this? Yeah. So the new UK defense minister, Mr. Grant Shapps, the first day, he tells the Telegraph that he's going to send British soldiers to Ukraine. So British troops are no longer going to train Ukrainians on British soil. No. He's going to send the instructors, which of course includes, British soldiers with thick accents from Belfast teaching bomb-making classes, right? From their experience, as CNN called it, in places like Ireland, I imagine, yeah? So he's going to send them right to Russia's border, right? He's going to send them right to Ukraine so they can do the training over there. This was the headline in the Telegraph. They said, Shapps to send UK troops to Ukraine. Now, Dmitry Medvedev, who used to be... well, in Russia, he used to be the president, right? So now he's on the Security Council. And he saw the headline, okay? He saw the headline. And this is what he tweeted, okay? God, I love his tweets. He's really, really funny. So he said that the damn it, I can't find it. Where the hell is it? Ah, yeah, there he is. Okay. He said the number of idiots in NATO in power is growing. One newly minted moron, the British Secretary of State for Defense, decided to move the UK military training of Ukrainian soldiers into Ukraine. That is to turn the British military instructors into our armed forces legal targets, while being fully aware that they will be ruthlessly eliminated, and this time not as mercenaries, but as British NATO specialists. And then he talks about the Bundestag, right? So he's right. I mean, if we look at international law, he's right. And by the way, this is one of the things that Russia has always been against and always been scared of, that you have NATO countries, you know, like Britain, sending British troops to another NATO country on Russia's border. This is what Russia asked for to stop this war, and NATO just said, no, screw you. So after Medvedev tweeted this, the Telegraph changed the title of the article, and they they made it much they made it much calmer. So now they said there are no plans to deploy British troops to Ukraine. Okay. And as far as the original title goes, they said, so it went from SHAPS to send UK soldiers to Ukraine, and it became SHAPS to ramp up support for Volodymyr Zelensky. So they actually got scared by Medvedev's tweet, and I mean, I can't believe that they thought to like openly boast about this, or that SHAPS thought to openly boast about this in the Telegraph like some moron. What did you think the Russians would say? What do you think the Russians will do? Medvedev should not have to threaten you on Twitter for you to know that this is horrifically and horrendously stupid. There's a reason that the Ukrainians are trained in Germany. The United States comes and trains them in Germany or in England and not inside Ukraine, because they would be blown to bits. And remember, at the start of the war, you had all these like keyboard warriors, you know, who thought that, oh, they're going to go become Rambo in Ukraine and kill Russians because CNN told them Russians are bad. And, you know, or rather the BBC in this case, and because they have British phone numbers and these idiots were on their phones, the Russians could see like all these numbers with you know, different so prefixes, you know, the number prefix of +44, and just blew them to bits. It's horrible. It's horrible, and you can only blame the media and the British government for allowing people to go and do this, because they even, you know, they even asked the Home Secretary, and the Home Secretary was like, yeah, I'm fine with this, that people go and fight in Ukraine. So this defense minister, he not only embarrassed the country, he embarrassed himself, and you know, he basically stained his own record like the first day on the job. And so they went and asked the Prime Minister Sunak about this, right? And he had to deny it. And they've been doing this all week, actually. I'll show you in a second what the Home Secretary's been doing. Like, his entire cabinet had basically been saying extraordinarily stupid crap, and then the media all go to the Prime Minister and say, oh, well, the Home Secretary said this, oh, the Defense Minister said this, do you agree with them? And then he has to go, every time he's like saying, no, I actually don't, because, you know, well, they're morons. Not that he's exactly the sharpest tool in the shed, but you get the idea. So Medvedev says another fool from the Bundestag, so the Reichstag, that's the German parliament. The chairwoman of German Defense Committee with an unpronounceable surname is clamoring to immediately provide the Ukro Banderovtsky with Taurus missiles to enable the Kiev regime to hit deep into Russia's territory to weaken the supply of our army. That is, it is in accordance with international law. Well, in that case, the strikes against the German plants which produce these missiles will also fully correspond to international law. Really, these half-wits are actively pushing us to World War III. Yeah. You know, Israel thinks that it can always bomb the Damascus International Airport or the Aleppo Airport or Latakia Seaport because Iran is sending weapons. So with that logic, you know, it should be perfectly fine for Russia to go and bomb the Kiev International Airport because 50 countries, well, not 50, but 50 countries are supporting Ukraine, and 30 of them in NATO are definitely sending weapons. So with that logic, of course, Russia can also just go and bomb the plant directly in Germany, right? This is the dangerous logic that they have in the West. And just to give you an idea, like who becomes German defense minister, first of all, people who lose world wars twice. And then people like Ursula von der Leyen, bitch, who is now the head of the EU. Yeah. You know, top-notch class of people, right? Just brilliant statesmen all around. In any case, whether you like it or not, Medvedev is right in both parts of his tweet. You know, it's really, really, really dangerous what they're doing. And my fear is that every time Russia, you know, sets a red line, which it shouldn't even have to do that, because if you had any clue about politics and diplomacy and military strategy, you understand certain dynamics. Like, oh, we shouldn't, you know, surround Russia with an adversarial military alliance, right? Because that's going to piss them off. They just lack any of this stuff. It's in the Cold War, which, you know, you would think, I used to think was worse, you know, in terms of the risk of nuclear war and so on, but they've managed to surpass it. At least back then, people had some inkling of, you know, what you can and what you cannot do. I know Reagan said, like, the Soviet Union is an evil empire, right? That's what he called it. But he didn't go and say, oh, well, the Russian president is a killer, which is what Biden called Putin, right? Like, you know, trading, well, not trading, because I don't think Putin even responded, but basically, you know, lobbing personal insults. Now, the problem is that it's not just about personal insults. The problem is that we're fighting a proxy war on Russia's border, and that this easily can turn into World War III at a moment's notice. A moment's notice. How weak, honestly. Who is this moron anyway? Who is this? You know, they just keep filling up positions, cabinet positions, with morons no one has ever heard of. This, you know, they want you to think like, oh, it's just African countries that are corrupt, or countries in the Middle East that are corrupt. No. Just look at in the UK how you have, you know, someone who's the health minister today, and then the next day they're suddenly the foreign secretary, and you know, then their friend is maybe the mayor, and then you know, becomes perhaps the secretary for defense. You know, they just trade jobs, like literally trade jobs. I think who was it again? Jeremy Hunt, who was health secretary and then he became foreign secretary. What the fuck? Are you a doctor? Are you a diplomat? How are you qualified for these positions? Oh, you're just, you know, you're just someone who went to Eton and has friends in powerful places. Wow. Well done, really. Bravo. So, you know, these nameless nobodies with no special skills, no experience, nothing to offer anyone, they are the ones that receive these jobs, become prime minister, become secretary of defense, just nobodies that no one has ever heard of, that don't give people in England or people in Britain anything except higher bills, more taxes. You know, let's drive up the price of gas. Let's kind of screw you over. Yeah, let's drive up the price of rent. Let's screw you over again. How do you like that? Oh, wait till we blow up that pipeline. Matt, these people are nuts. They're nuts. Just want to serve. Just want to serve corporations and banks. That's all they do. You know, it's no wonder that the Prime Minister, Mr. Rishi Sunak, you know, is Where does it come from? Worked at Goldman Sachs. No? As soon as I remembered, oh, yes. Now I know why he's getting the nomination. So, how are we doing, guys? How are we doing? You know, I want to show you someone else who's really just not just incompetent, but such a hateful person. She's really someone who is, I don't know quite how to describe her. Maybe you guys can help me. I'm not joking, because it's so difficult to. Okay, so this is the this is the Home Secretary in the UK, okay? And so just listen to what she said about migrants.
Our world is unprecedented mass migration. The wind of change that carried my own parents across the globe in the 20th century was a mere gust compared to the hurricane that is coming. Because today, the option of moving from a poorer country to a richer one is not just a dream for billions of people, it is an entirely realistic prospect. Every human, every single person has the right to aspire to a better life. As conservatives, that's one of the cornerstones of our philosophy. Indeed, without that dream, I wouldn't be standing before you today. But conservatives are also practical and realistic. Nobody can deny.
I knew there was a but. There was a but coming somewhere in there.
That there are far, far more people in poorer countries who would love to move to Britain than could ever be accommodated.
How dare they? You know, I seem to recall we had no problem moving from Britain to 25% of the fucking planet. Yeah. And the sea of change that brought you, which she proudly says, that brought you to the UK is the British Empire. But, you know, she says she's a child of empire, and proudly so. You know, I think I know what to call her. She's an Uncle Tom. That's what she is. Or Auntie Tom in this case. That's what she is. She is like the person who lives in the master's house and keeps all the other slaves in line and really believes in the master, that he is superior because he's white. So she is the Home Secretary, right? So in another country, you would call this Minister of Interior, which is it's a cabinet position, right? She might end up being the Prime Minister someday. She has extraordinary power in England, in the UK. She is stinking rich, as they all are, right? And now that she is okay, she's powerful and she's rich, she pulls up the ladder behind her, right? She makes sure that other immigrants cannot come in. It's okay for her to migrate, right? But not the other immigrants. The other immigrants are dangerous, but I'm okay, I promise. I will actually keep them in line, or rather keep them out. I mean, she's disgusting. She's a disgusting person. And I want to make something very clear, because she, like many other people, makes it sound like it's a crime to want to move from a poor country to a rich country. Like it's a crime to be happy. First of all, people do not travel across the Sahara or, you know, up to Libya and then risk drowning in the Mediterranean Sea. Have you tried it? I don't think you would like it. And then, you know, maybe go from France to England and risk drowning in the Channel, because they are, you know, just trying to sneak into the country and actually just really criminals deep down. They're escaping a country that has become so unlivable because of people like her, because of the empire that she is so proud of. So the reason you have developed countries and undeveloped countries, these terms are not really correct. You have rich countries and you have robbed countries that have been robbed, right? I talked a lot about Niger and the coup and all these things and the dynamic there. You know, you can't tell me that France depends on for its nuclear program and its energy grid. It must get uranium from Niger, and somehow Niger, that provides France with an element that is crucial, critical for its defense and its industry and its economy, and yet it's the poorest country on earth. Someone is playing dirty tricks here and robbing the other. This is not an unfair percentage. It's robbing someone blind. And this is just one example, okay? So she is a disgusting person because she not only hates other people who aspire to a better life, like she claims to support, but she is openly saying that they are actually invaders. So like now that she's rich and she's powerful, she's an okay migrant, right? Because she's going to keep the other migrants out. What a disgusting human being. And then look at this. Look at this.
It's my job, first and foremost, to be honest and speak for the majority of the British people.
You don't.
And my comments have been somewhat mischaracterized. We have...
No. I literally played your clip. They were crystal clear. Never interrupted you. You were crystal clear. And this is not your first speech, is it?
So much to be proud of. We have a great multi-ethnic society, and in many parts of our country, integration has worked. But there are also many towns and cities around the United Kingdom where it hasn't.
Yes, number 10 Downing Street is one of them.
And communities are living parallel lives. They are coming from abroad. They are not learning the language.
Yeah, parallel lives. It's funny because she's really just talking about the stinking rich people like her in London who live in a parallel community to everybody else. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And so another thing is that, you know, she acts like the UK is going to accept refugees, but not economic migrants. First of all, the people that she calls economic migrants, those criminals who want to have a better life, how dare they? They are mostly refugees. If you look at the countries where people are, fleeing from the most, it's Ukraine, it's Syria, and it's Afghanistan. I wonder what those three have in common. Let's try NATO. Yeah? So people are fleeing those countries and going to Germany, going to the UK and so on, who, by the way, are aging countries, so they're providing them with a free workforce after being screwed by them. But in any case, the point is just that they call them economic migrants when really they're coming from countries that have been crushed by centuries of imperialism and that are still being crushed today, right now, with neo-colonialism and with sanctions and with bullying, right? So when someone wants to tell you, well, imperialism was until 1945 and then the world became like a really rosy place, this is horse shit. No, it absolutely didn't. It absolutely didn't. And you still have imperialism. It's called neo-colonialism. Okay? And the thing is that she and other people like her, like Priti Patel, who was the Home Secretary before her, who again is also who is also a child of immigrants, right? And hates other immigrants and refugees, right? Unbelievable. They are Uncle Toms, period. They both say that, if you want to come and seek asylum and have your case examined and then be given refugee status because you're fleeing from war or persecution, you can come, but you cannot come by boat. Because, refugees, when they're fleeing a war, the first thing they do is they just risk drowning in the Channel or in the Mediterranean Sea, right? That makes perfect sense. She says that you have to come through a safe and legal route. Yeah, there is no safe or legal route to the UK. There are none. There is not a single one. There are no safe and legal routes for people to seek asylum in the UK. She, as the Home Secretary, is literally forcing refugees to drown or risk drowning in the Mediterranean Sea. She is forcing them to take the boats. Her, the same woman that is telling you no more boats. You're creating the fucking boats. You are the one creating this business of people smuggling refugees and making money off of them. And then they claim we're gonna clamp down and crack down on, traffickers and people that are facilitating this. Dude, you are literally their best friend. You are the reason they go by boat. They have no other choice. You have left them no option, not one, to actually claim asylum, because you have to be on British soil to make a claim. You cannot go to a British embassy or find a British embassy and just make it there. You have to be on British soil. And the Refugee Convention, the United Nations Refugee Convention, which was written by the UK, among other countries, literally says, when refugees come to your country, you should expect them to come in really weird ways because they're fleeing war. It's literally in the convention. It's in the text. It says it. So she is breaking the Refugee Convention, as her predecessor is, Priti Patel, the other Auntie Tom, and not only that, but also, violating people's human rights, because to deny someone the right to seek asylum is to violate their human rights. To force someone into a position where they have to risk drowning just to make an asylum claim is also a violation of someone's human rights. One could even, maybe a savvy lawyer, I'm not a lawyer, but maybe a savvy lawyer could argue it's manslaughter. I don't know. My point here is just that she is the Home Secretary. She has enormous power in her hands. She could do whatever she wants to deal with this, to fix this, to give refugees who have gone through hell a safe way to make an application for asylum, and she doesn't. And then she says, look, I love refugees and migrants, but just not anyone except me. Right? I love migrants. I'm a migrant, but no more migrants. Oh, and by the way, the refugees, they can come, but they have to come through safe and legal routes, which I've made sure don't exist. And then, of course, there are all the other things that, she and her predecessor have worked on, like the Nationality and Borders Bill, where, they can take away anyone's citizenship, right? And of course, they tell you, oh, well, it's only for terrorists. Like, only for terrorists would we even contemplate undertaking, such an endeavor where we would withdraw someone's British citizenship. It starts like that, yeah, but then it becomes, oh, well, we suspect you've committed thought crime or said something we don't like, so we're withdrawing your citizenship. These are, again, these two women, Priti Patel, her predecessor, and Suella Braverman, are children of immigrants that have come to the United Kingdom, that are making sure no one else can come in, and even to the point that refugees who are fleeing war have to risk drowning in the Channel because they won't provide them with a single way to make an asylum application legally and safely and properly. That is absolutely disgusting. It's not incompetence, it's evil. Miss Texas G says, question, Richard, would I even be allowed to visit your country considering I have very strong opinions about the government's position on Ukraine? Well, it says Texas in your name. I'm assuming you're American. And yes, you could come to the UK, I think, without a visa. I know we have a waiver program. If you're from the EU or British, you can, with the waiver program, go to the US without a visa. I'm assuming there's something in it works the other way around. So yes, you could. Just make sure you're not a journalist. Otherwise, you might be stopped. But other than that, you can visit. Oh, God. Larry Kane, thank you for the donation. I appreciate it very much. Thank you for the support. And I'm putting up the next segment here. We also have a donation here from Stephen Hayes. Says, Suella Braverman angling hard to be the next mustache man of Europe. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how to describe this kind of behavior. I really don't. I really don't. She's on the way there. Let's put it that way. Kiara says, please mention film The Lost Boys. Yes. So Kiara says this is a film where MI5 new pedophiles were operating out of Kinkora Boys' Home during the Troubles in Northern Ireland and did nothing. So I haven't watched it yet, but basically, I mean, nothing would surprise me anymore about the Troubles, really. This is a film that talks about how... So in the Troubles, this is a period from 69 to 99, 30 years in Ireland and Britain, where you had the IRA mainly, fighting against the British state, and a lot of bloodshed, and terrorist attacks, and the British state supporting basically these street gangs and militias like the Ulster Volunteer Force and so on, who would carry out bombings and things like that. And during the Troubles, you had a lot of espionage going on, a lot of things like that you would think something out of a movie, that it's so intricate. And you have Special Branch, which is basically the division in the police that has special powers, and they're basically spies, but in the police force, right? Let's put it that way. So Special Branch, and then you have MI5, which is the intelligence and security service in the UK, not MI6 and SIS, which is outside. So they were basically infiltrating and trying to infiltrate and penetrate the IRA and other Irish organizations, and make sure that Northern Ireland stays part of the UK and that it's not ceded to Ireland, and they were using so many dirty tactics, and this is one of them, as Chiara mentions, that, and I wouldn't be surprised really, because so many nasty things happened. And as she says, the MI5 were using pedophiles as sources, and just letting them continue because they were providing them with intelligence, So I haven't seen it yet, but it's called The Lost Boys. So it's in Kinkora Boys' Home during the Troubles in Northern Ireland. So thanks for reminding me to watch it. And I don't know if you guys have seen the display in the British Museum. The Imperial War Museum. So if you want to see all the stolen shit that we took from the rest of the world, that's the British Museum. If you want to see some nice ship guns, naval guns, go to the Imperial War Museum. They also have some nice tanks and planes and so on. But there's a section that a new section, I think, on the 5th floor, I don't remember, that they had about the Troubles in Northern Ireland. And honestly, it was like, I knew that it was going to be this way, but it was very, very, passive language, like not taking any responsibility, not revealing the fact that Special Branch and MI5 and the British state were working alongside all these groups like UVF, and again, training them, giving the equipment and the techniques to plant bombs in pubs and so on. And then, of course, there are many people like the Guildford Four who were wrongly convicted and put in jail, and had their lives ruined, just like that, for no reason. Just because they were under pressure to find culprits, they just put 4 random Irish people in prison. Yeah, it's really a lot of nasty stuff, and of course the exhibition does nothing to do any of the truth justice. So don't expect much. I wouldn't even bother going. Okay, so let me put up the next. Give me a second. Let me put up the next. So this is some footage from China. Okay. So when Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian president visited China, I impressed upon you the importance of this visit, and how strategic it was, no pun intended, for the two countries to sign this strategic partnership. For Syria, on the one hand, because Syria needs reconstruction, it needs a strong economic partner to help it rebuild and recover from this war that is, even today claiming lives, like we just saw at the military academy in Homs. The Chinese also need access to the Mediterranean Sea, as do all the countries in Central Asia, and even Iraq and Iran once the new Silk Road emerges. But I want to show you also some, because he sat down, Assad, and gave an interview with to CGTN, and I want to show you a couple of clips and the kind of reception that he got. So you guys remember that when they came out, they got the red carpet treatment and everything, yeah? There was a parade after this and everything, and the next day he met Xi Jinping. And here you can see so that's his wife, who she's British. And they're there with their children also, right? And just sorry to pause it, but the person who posted this, who's a journalist, he said that Assad's son can speak Mandarin Chinese. I mean, I'm jealous. I'm jealous, man. I speak 4 languages: English, French, German, and Arabic. I should have swapped German for Chinese, no question. I knew Chinese is going to be one of the most important languages in the future, just by virtue of it being a UN language already, along with Spanish as well, and Russian and English and Arabic, but and French. But I didn't expect it to take on so quickly, and for China to overtake the US so quickly, and BRICS to emerge so quickly. It's it's the only downside to all of this. I didn't learn Mandarin.
哪儿？欢迎。全家就是。全家。我刚刚见。Hello.
I was.
Beautiful. Very beautiful. You have a beautiful country. Hello. 欢迎。
Yeah, so his wife is British, originally Syrian, and because she committed the crime of marrying the Syrian president, they wanted to withdraw her citizenship, or they were discussing it or some crap like that. Again, I told you this nationality and borders bill is going to be used for shit like this. Yeah, so I think her father was also a famous doctor in Downing Street. Yeah, he was a surgeon. And Bashar al-Assad is actually an eye doctor, right? So it's a family of doctors. In any case, I was discussing this with Danny Haifong just the other day about how much fangirling there is in China over Esma al-Assad, his wife, and Assad himself, actually. It kind of shows you the difference in the culture, just because they're not brainwashed and propagandized in China the same way that we are in the West by our media, right? So like here, you're supposed to actually hate China, even though if you've never been there and you can't speak the language and you don't know anyone from there. And same thing with Syria and Cuba. You're supposed to just hate like literally billions of people because CNN told you that's how it is. They deserve to suffer. This is sick. And you can see the difference, honestly. It's pretty cool.
Have a beautiful country.
So let me play you a clip. This is from CGTN, and let's see what he had to say.
الشمالية الشرقية من سوريا التي يحتلها الإرهابيون هي نفسها التي يشرف عليها الأمريكي. فإذا القضية ليست فقط سرقة، وإنما القضية هي شراكة مع الإرهابيين في تقاسم الأرباح، وهي مشكلة ثانية أن تكون دولة عظمى تشارك الإرهابيين. هذا هو حقيقة الواقع في سوريا. لذلك نحن نخسر في تلك المناطق النفط والقمح. نحن كنا دولة نصدر القمح، الآن لا يوجد لدينا إلا القليل من القمح، لا يوجد لدينا كهرباء. كيف يمكن أن يكون هناك حياة من دون كهرباء؟ طبعا لدينا أقل بكثير من الحد الأدنى للحياة، ولكن هذا لا يكفي. الشمالية الشرقية.
Bashar al-Assad has obviously been watching my channel because he said all the points that I make. No, but seriously, like, it's sad, you know, especially about the wheat. You know, a few years ago in 2019, 2020, they were even setting the wheat on fire. You had, like, you know, just like fields and fields being set on fire. And once again, always ask yourself, who benefits from this, right? The thing is that when it was already known back then that it was the United States that was actually burning these fields. And people were saying, no, this is propaganda from Iran and propaganda from Bashar al-Assad. And lo and behold, the Americans showed their hand and then moved in and took 1/3 of Syria, where all the wheat is grown and all the oil fields are located. So, you know, whether you're burning it or you're preventing people from eating it, the result is exactly the same. Literally the same. Whether you steal the oil or you just sit on top of the oil fields and prevent the government from extracting it and giving it the revenue and the wealth of the country to the people, is the same thing. Actually, obviously, the stealing it and selling it off is worse, but you understand my point. It's that at the end of the day, the idea, the United States is not, you know, trying to make, you know, 50 trillion from the oil in Syria. It's not about the quantity. It's about how much it matters to the Syrians, and it matters a lot because it makes up 1/4 of government revenue. 1/4. That's how much. Even though Syria is not a major oil exporter, it means so much for the country and for the people. The United States is like, okay, we're going to take this and we're going to take the food and we're going to make sure no one works with you and we're going to isolate you and all these things. And, you know, when he says here that the United States, it's not just a problem of theft. He says that, you know, the global superpower is colluding with terrorists. And I was kind of just laughing to myself. I was like, yeah, this is not the first time. Look at Afghanistan and look at the collusion with Nazis in Ukraine, like to the point that, you know, like we were saying earlier, they're hailing, no pun intended, they're hailing a piece of shit Nazi in the Canadian Parliament. And the only reason the speaker resigned is after people, you know, the media said nothing. Associated Press, Reuters said nothing. It's people on Twitter, it's citizen journalists, independent journalists who called this out, who said, hold on, he did what in World War II? He fought against who? Oh, you mean a Nazi? And only then the media, like a day later, had to report on it. And only then that speaker had to resign. So you see, they're like openly working with terrorists, with Nazis, and all for the sake of their geopolitical games, you know? Let me show you another clip.
اليوم دولة عظمى تلعب دور هام جدا على مستوى العالم، ومع ذلك هي عندما تتحدث عن الشراكة فهي تتحدث عن مبدأ جديد، لا تتحدث عن الهيمنة. ما ينقصنا نحن كدول في مختلف دول العالم، ليس فقط في سوريا، ولكن خاصة الدول الأصغر تحتاج لهذه الشراكة وتحتاج لهذا الدور، والصين تقوم بهذا الدور، لأن الصين وقفت مع سوريا سياسيا من خلال دورها في مجلس الأمن وفي عدد من المحافل الدولية، بالإضافة للمواقف السياسية الواضحة البعيدة عن المجاملات. هذا الجانب السياسي هو أساسا متطور، ولكن من الطبيعي أن يكون هناك حوار أوسع في هذه الظروف التي يمر بها العالم. هناك الجانب الاقتصادي، جانب التنمية. بالنسبة لنا في سوريا يعنينا كثيرا، لأن سوريا الآن معرضة لحصار اقتصادي سيء وقاسي وخطير من الغرب يهدف لتجويع الشعب السوري.
Once again, I can only say that this guy's been watching my channel too much. No, you know, this is simply the truth. This is the truth, and I've said these things many times to you guys because whether we're talking about Syria or Cuba or Venezuela, you know, the sanctions are going to hurt people very, very much. And we are at a very important point in history where the sanctioned countries have become the majority, and they've had enough, and now they're building their own world. Not out of, spite or out of, a desire to exclude the West. On the contrary, the West is welcome to join in if the United States will let the rest of Western Europe, and Australia. But, the global South is and always has been the majority, and it's actually thanks to economic powerhouses like China, or if we're going to talk about the Middle East, a regional power like Iran that has helped many people stand up and defend themselves, and like genuinely, just for the sake of them defending themselves against Israel, against the United States, against this aggression, against like in Yemen, against the United States and Saudi Arabia. These countries and Russia have been crucial. So Iran, China, Russia, they've been crucial in lifting up other countries that have been just trampled on by the West in 50 million ways. So there's nothing malicious about that, or malign, or devious. It's just good. Sometimes there are good things. That's it. And in the case of China, it's not just going to build infrastructure and help rebuild Syria, but as I mentioned before, the access to the Mediterranean Sea is going to be beneficial for everybody, right? It's not just like, again, the interpretation, the so-called analysis that they had on the Israeli channel, which I told you guys, but I'm going to repeat it again because it's so funny. They said that China have invited Assad because China is trying to court the global South, right? Like curry favor with them, as if China is not the global South itself already, But China, they said China is trying to court the global South and just check boxes. And so Syria just happened to be one of the boxes. Like, what is this garbage analysis from a child? Literally no brains, nothing. You would think the Israelis would know what's up because I can tell you the government they know what's happening, and they're very displeased. And that's why Netanyahu went to the UN with a stupid red marker and said, "We are going to build a trade route here." Yeah, okay. I'd like to see you try. So in any case, this is going to be beneficial for the entire global South, and the interview is very long, but I wanted to show you these points. And, there's a reason, by the way, just in case it wasn't clear, but there's a reason that Bashar al-Assad visited only three, the only three Arab countries, or non-Arab countries that he visited were China, Russia, and Iran. There's a reason for that. That's because they play an important role in the global South and played an important role to help Syria. And he mentioned the UN Security Council, which I told you as well, where China tried to protect Syria using its veto power at the UN. So it's me personally, I don't think anyone should have a permanent seat and veto power in this form. Even if it's China, the UN made a mistake by allowing this to happen, where you have 5 countries that, their voice counts more than everybody else's. It undermines the entire purpose of the UN. Nevertheless, when it could, China helped Syria and defended it and used that mechanism, and as did Russia, by the way. In any case, there you go. Watch the full interview if you can, and look at the difference, right? Like if they would interview Assad on, I don't know, PBS or something, they would go to his house, to the palace, or the presidential palace or somewhere in Damascus, and then like say like, is it true that you dropped a barrel full of chlorine on a kindergarten and then laughed while burning a puppy? They have no shame, and then they go home to Biden, who is like an actual war criminal, who you can go watch videos of him, like not even in the 2000s, already in the 90s, he's like dying just to bomb Iraqis, and then when they interview him, they'll tuck their tail between their legs and like they'll throw him softballs because he can barely even think at this point. Anyway. Let me show you, speaking of Hans Standish says, good reporting, Richard Medhurst. Hello from Australia. Free Palestine. Thank you very much. Free Palestine indeed. Yes. And okay, so this is something from the US Congress. And hold on, I turned notifications off because I didn't want to get disturbed while I'm ranting. But we just got a new member on Patreon. It's Vanessa. Thank you, Vanessa. Everybody put your hands together for Vanessa. And we also got a donation here on PayPal. Give me a second. Where is it? There we go. This is from Kayla, and says, well, there is no message. Thank you, Kayla, though. I appreciate it. Okay, so let me play a crab dance for Vanessa. I play a crab dance, and if you don't know what that is, boy, you're about to find out, and you will not forget, I guarantee you. I play a crab dance every time we get a new member on Patreon or on YouTube. So if you guys would like to support my work and you want to support independent journalism, throw a donation. Maybe a one-time donation on Patreon, on PayPal, or a monthly one on Patreon. Whatever. If you have a comment or a question, shoot. In any case, I'm trying to hit the goal. The goal is 750, and we have almost 1,000 people watching. So we just need 40 people. Just need 40 to join. So come on, guys. Those of you who haven't joined yet, I'm putting your name on a list. No, I'm joking. But please join and put your hands together for Vanessa. All right, there you go. That's a plug.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome.
Thank you.
والله انت كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
China.
And you ain't black.
There's always the macro.
And then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me?
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'll have 2 number 9s. A number 9 large.
we got him.
Because I have to do it myself. I know it's not.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Oh!
Disgusting!
She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
We'll do it live! Fuck it! Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Why attack Sanders? Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it! I yield my time! Fuck you!
I want to laugh, but I was reading a few more things about what happened today in Syria. So yeah, it's a bit upsetting. But thank you, Vanessa. I appreciate you supporting my work. We also got a super chat here from 72 Marshflower 15. It says directional fracking by Raytheon Industries is likely what triggered the quakes in Syria and Turkey, backed by imperialist U.S. military, of course. Now, during the Cold War, they had these they had these rumors about weather machines, right? Like that the Soviets or the Americans were building machines that could literally alter the weather. You guys probably know Top Gear. And lo and behold, one day I saw them actually playing with a goddamn weather machine that produced actual clouds, and I was stunned. I was like, wow, so that stuff was actually real. So they really made it. You can probably buy one somewhere. But my point here is kind of that, you know, I don't know if it was Raytheon, I would not be surprised though. I really wouldn't. Nothing surprises me anymore. You know, if you want to talk about this kind of damage, both to the environment and to people, look at the nuclear testing also in the Cold War. The French used to do this, you know, in the Pacific. They used to do it in Algeria. Don't give a damn. You got Native Americans who, you know, got all sorts of nasty diseases and cancers and sicknesses because the U.S. military, you know, letting nuclear waste seep into their water and you know, destroying not just the environment but their lives as well. Really a nasty business, all of this. And I want to say one thing actually, because you mentioned fracking in Syria. You know, there's a lot of gas actually in Syria on the coast in the Mediterranean. You remember when I was reporting on the dispute between Lebanon and Israel? What were they fighting about? They were fighting about this region, off the coast, Karish gas fields, right? Karish gas fields. So this is on the seabed, and you know, it's been proven that there is gas down there, right? They've done a survey and made, you know, certified it, and the Israelis were like, well, the Israelis just tried to start, you know, extracting the gas. They sent this giant goddamn ship. It's so huge. It not only transports the stuff, it drills it as well. It's a real beast of a vessel, or I should say, she's a real beast. and Hezbollah was like, you know what? If you even try to start, we are gonna, you know, we have our rockets aimed at you, and they backed off. Unfortunately, it's the only language they understand. I don't know. But in the end, it was resolved by the United States of all people, which is good, right? Diplomacy is good. The problem is that, you know, Israel is not a real country, and Lebanon does not recognize Israel. So they were not, you know, dealing with each other. The Lebanese would talk to the Americans, and the Israelis would talk to the Americans. And that's how it went. It's kind of like the grain deal, right? Russia not talking to Ukraine, or maybe Ukraine didn't want to actually, but talking to the UN and Turkey, and then the UN and Turkey talk to Ukraine and vice versa and so on. This is, you know, like how the nuclear deal is being done now, because the last time the Iranians were talking directly with the Americans, they sat at the table face to face, right, in Vienna. But now, because they killed Soleimani, they put sanctions back on Iran, and they violated their own deal. The Iranians are sick of this, so they refuse to even speak to them, and they have, you know, for good reason. How can you blame them? But they are still willing to, you know, negotiate and get the Americans back to comply with the deal. And so the way it works now is the Iranians will talk to the Russians or the Chinese, and then they will go and talk, or it could be the EU or Germany, and then they'll go and talk to the Americans and vice versa. This is sometimes how it works. Anyway, coming back from my side note, there is a lot of gas to be explored in Syria, on the Mediterranean coast, and in Lebanon, and I suspect one of the reasons that they want, you know, to control Syria is to get these resources, because Europe needs gas right now, especially after they sanctioned Russia, and then the Americans won't let them deal with Iran. You know, they're really looking for gas, and they're going to get it from Israel when it's actually, it should belong to Syria and to Lebanon. You know, 72 Marshflower says, you're the one who showed video of hundreds of U.S. tankers stealing oil. Yep, yeah. Dude, this is every week. Every week there are new videos. There's one, you know, filmed with an infrared camera. There's another one filmed with a drone. They just like, out in the open, they don't even bother try hiding it. It's like a normal convoy, like you're driving to the store, you know, just like taking some stolen oil across the border into another country without a visa and without a permit and without any permission. Just, hundreds of millions of dollars of stolen of oil, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of stolen oil. Right now, if you added up the total, the destruction plus the oil, it's in the billions. That's how much damage has been done to Syria. So, democracy is not cheap. Let me show you something. This is okay. So Bernie Sanders, you guys all remember him. I think after 2020, we've all had quite enough, unfortunately, and his he just keeps getting further and further and further and further away from everything that he claims to be. So Code Pink were protesting outside his office at Congress, and he basically had the police, the Capitol Police, just come and arrest them, handcuff them, like just for holding up signs. They don't have pots and pans. Highly recommend this, or vuvuzelas. Even more. They're not violent. They're not doing anything bad. They're just holding up a piece of paper with his own words. And the quote, this is Bernie Sanders, says that we must work hard, quote, we must work hard to achieve a realistic and mutually agreeable resolution, one that is acceptable to Ukraine, Russia, the United States, and our European allies. Yeah, it was called the 2+4 agreement. But okay. So let's sit down, let's negotiate, and let's come up with a diplomatic solution. Again, this was done 30 years ago, before I was even born. But they violated it. In any case, he is right, and I think this is a reasonable, sane, and progressive, and just a good thing to do, right? Not just to say, not just to write it on a piece of paper, but to do it. But Bernie Sanders, I mean, what does he do now? Well, he wants to send weapons to Ukraine, right? Aid. No, this is not aid. When you take a bunch of cash and, in Washington, and you go and give it to Wall Street, this has nothing to do with Ukraine. In any case, he got people arrested, like actually arrested. Here are the videos.
Vermonters want peace.
Do you have any comment?
I'm from Vermont, and I voted for Bernie every time from Congress on. I wasn't there when he was mayor. But Vermonters want.
Jimmy, why did you protest outside of Bernie?
Everyone knows that the first thing you do to people who voted for you is you get the Capitol Police to arrest them.
Sanders' office.
To end the war in Ukraine, end U.S. funding for the war, no funding for war, funding for health care,
Jimmy Lee
housing.
is from Burlington, Vermont. He's a constituent of Bernie Sanders getting arrested. Right here.
Look at this Gestapo shit, Mr. Muscleman. What? Come on, man. I thought this is the land of the free. Even if you're gonna say, well, he's causing a disturbance, the guy's his constituent. He is obliged and obligated to see him, right? There's no way around this.
What are we demanding Bernie do, Jimmy?
We want him to end the war. Speak out against the war. If he spoke out against the war, it would make a huge difference. It would make a huge difference. He's lined up for using and abusing Ukrainians. And he's been supporting using and abusing Vermonters who live in the terrible noise zone of the F-35 at the airport. 115 decibel, F-35 taking off and landing.
My ears shuddered and retracted within themselves upon hearing the number of decibels. Jesus, you go deaf, man. You go deaf. That is ridiculous. Can you having to listen to that all the time?
Bernie is for diplomacy. I'm here to remind him.
Just to be clear, I meant listening to the jets, huh? I don't mean the guy in the video. He was saying how loud the jets are in Vermont, and yeah, I was scared by the number of decibels. This is so unfair. They're just like, they're not even properly arresting them. They use like these plastic things, which obviously is, I think, either way, right? It just shows you how pathetic it is. Like, what is the point of this? What are you restraining them for, man? Come on. Look, here's a close up actually.
Why are you getting arrested, Jody? Why?
It says that Bernie is for diplomacy. I'm here to remind him that he knows diplomacy is the right thing. He knows peace is the right thing. We're here to tell him we need peace. He needs to call on Biden to go to the negotiating table. Don't tell us that Putin won't, because the United States isn't. Do it. Do it. Let them fail. You're failing right now. Let them fail. People are dying.
I'm gonna let you finish in a second, but I just wanted to say that this is what I was saying. You know, like if it's really the Russians that are the problem, well, like demonstrate this to me, prove it to me. Like try to meet their needs in a way that is sensible and reasonable for everybody, and then when they still behave like this, then I will believe you. But the problem is that nobody even tried. Nobody even tried, you know, to actually engage in diplomacy. It was just like, no, middle finger, screw you. So, like she said, let them fail. But, you know, don't abdicate, you know, your duty to try as a statesman to convince them not to do X, Y, Z, or to, you know, to see the light and your point of view. Don't just like abandon that and then go straight to war. No.
This happened, I was here 21 years ago, and they didn't listen. And 6 million people are dead because of the war in Iraq. We have to listen. War kills, weapons kill. We have to stop this war. People are dying, and the people in the United States are paying for it.
Does the people in the United States want a war?
No, the people in the United States do not want a war, and they're paying for it. Not only are they paying for it with their tax dollars, but they're paying for it in the shredding of this literal fabric of society. When we think that weapons are the way, what happens? Then the only way that you can have a discussion, the only way that you can work on differences is with weapons and guns. That's not how it happens. Nothing is solved with weapons and guns. Nothing. Where's the leadership that models sitting down at a table and coming up with some agreements? This has to end. We have to stop the war to World War III.
Go back to when you used to say being anti-war. What do we want? Peace!
What do we want?
I mean, you just can't really you can't win with them. You cannot win with them. They're gonna do whatever they want. And all this crap about, well, oh, you have to protest. You know, you have to demonstrate peacefully. No, they don't even let you do that. You have no freedom of speech. You know, and if this were happening in Russia, it would be all over the news. Would it not be on CNN? And it was, right? They were saying, oh, look at this woman. She held up an empty sign, like, you know, a blank piece of paper, and she was still arrested. Honestly, that was kind of funny, though. I was like, this is an absurd level of policing. I just don't know what to make of it. No, but is the U.S. any better? You can't, like, if Russia's bad and people cannot protest and criticize the war, what is this? Are they not getting arrested? What have they done? They're protesting. They're also constituents of Bernie Sanders, so it's their right to go and visit him in his goddamn office and talk to him. He has to see them, and they're being arrested for quoting him. I mean, you can't sit there and tell me the Russians have less civil liberties and less democracy, and their way of life is primitive, and then, you know, of course, repeat this propaganda about North Korea and any country that doesn't allow American banks and, you know, and companies into their country. But, you know, you can't sit there and tell me that is true and then look at this and tell me, well, in America, no. In the West, we really have, like, real freedom of speech. We are really free and superior to everybody else. Look at the fucking videos that I just showed you. Here, this is Bernie Sanders' own goddamn website. Under his foreign policy section. By the way, Booker, who was running for Senate, I'm never going to stop repeating this because it makes me so angry, was running for Senate, and he did not even have a foreign policy section on his website. How the fuck do you run for goddamn Congress in a global superpower and you don't have a foreign policy section? What are you going to do when they say, oh, here, we want to invade Iraq and kill, you know, like 1 million people. Are you down or not? What, do you not have something to say? How can we make sure that you will be a tool for Israel and vote every time to give them that money. We need to know beforehand that you're going to play ball, man. So this is Bernie Sanders' website, and he thankfully does have a foreign policy section. And he says that he wants to implement a foreign policy which focuses on democracy, human rights, diplomacy and peace, and economic fairness, meaning he will send weapons to Ukraine. Yes. I think I've made my point. You can't win with these people, man. You can't win with these people. Bernie Sanders, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is like an avid Zionist. It's always disappointing with the Republicans. The ones, especially the ones who are like really like, oh, we are against the war in Ukraine, and then they turn around and say we love Israel. Oh, we want to bomb China. You can't win with them, man. At the end of the day, they're all neoconservatives in one way or another. They just are. I love Israel. I'm going to give Israel everything. You have a magnificent wall. Okay, so let's continue. Actually, I want to show you something about giving weapons to Ukraine. Speak of the devil. That's exactly what we have up next. Now, this is interesting, right? Because so a couple of things to go through here, right? There was an impending government shutdown, right? And they were trying to what the Democrats were trying to do is make sure that they lump weapons for Ukraine in with the main bill. They always do this, where you'll have like something like the crime bill in 1994, which Biden wrote. And then he'll put something like the Defense of Women Act inside of it, so that you feel, compelled to vote for this thing, just because you want the Defense for Women Act to pass, and even though you don't like the rest of it, right? Because it's horrible. The 94 crime bill, tons of people in jail, just prison industrial complex, raking in billions, feeding this disgusting corporate beast, and ruining the lives of so many people. And that's how they get you, So, and they do this all the time. They'll put two things that are completely unrelated just to compel you and to convince you into voting for something, right? This is how they often do this. And so in any case, the House voted on, as it says here, nay. The House voted on a bill. The House voted on a bill that was separated from the Pentagon budget and turned into a new proposal outlining $300 million in aid to Ukraine. So in the end, they separated them, okay? They were able to keep the government open, right, and running, up and running, but they postponed the aid for Ukraine. Honestly, come on, like 300 million? These are peanuts. We want billions. Billions, man. You can't save democracy and defeat Putin with 300 million. This is a joke. God, they're so horrible. So obviously, what do you guys think happened? What do you think happened? Like we were just talking about Bernie Sanders, right? So, okay, he's in the Senate. Let's look at the House. But, what do you think happened? How did these progressives vote for this bill, right? Well, the interesting thing is that before they even got to vote for it, Jamal Bowman pulled a fire alarm in Cannon Building, which is adjacent to it basically connects to the Capitol with this underground tunnel, and some of the representatives have their offices in Cannon Building, right? So he just pulls a fire alarm. I mean, I don't like. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? I saw this, picture from this frame from the CCTV footage, and I was like, he used to run a school, right? He was a middle school principal, and now he's claiming he didn't know it's a fire alarm. How do you run a school? They have fire alarms all over the goddamn place, right? You work in this building. It's not his first day in Congress, right? Look at this.
It was over the weekend when your New York colleague, Congressman Jamal Bowman, and he's under investigation for this now after Capitol Police say he pulled a fire alarm in one of the House office buildings. Democrats were trying to delay a final vote on the bill. There he is pulling the fire alarm. He says it was an accident. He thought pulling the alarm would open a door based on the fact that the doors to his right there were locked.
If this was really an accident, and if I mean, I would rather say I did it on purpose than people think I'm that stupid.
And there was a sign that he said he was, I think someone said it was confusing. I'll be honest, it doesn't really make sense to me, his explanation.
Man, when even CNN can't buy your bullshit, you are in trouble.
Talk to him. What's going on there?
I mean, listen, I think if you actually do see some of the photos of the signs, I think there's something to be said about the government's about to shut down. There's a vote clock that's going down. The exits that are normally open in that building were suddenly closed.
So you pulled the fire alarm?
So what I am here to say is that House administration and U.S. Capitol Police and Jamal Bowman are an active, and he's fully participating in saying there was a misunderstanding. But what I do think is important to raise is the fact that Republicans, representatives like Nicole Maliotakis and others, immediately moved to file motions to censure, motions to expel, before there has even been conversations that are finished to even see if there was a misunderstanding here. But what
I will save you, I will spare you and deliver you from this torture. So the thing is that this is led to a very interesting debate, because as you guys remember, on January 6th, right, on this infamous day of the coup d'etat. I mean, I always laugh when people call this a coup, because a coup is when the CIA come for your ass, not when some people walk into the Capitol building. But anyway, the Department of Justice in the U.S., they've been using and bending the language of the law to prosecute around 300 people for January 6th, right? So they could have used assault or trespassing or whatever, and instead, this is from the Washington Post. It came out just like a few minutes ago, right? So before we went live, and yeah, very, very interesting piece, right? So in the case Miller versus the United States, right, the breadth of an unlikely federal law that has been used to charge about 300 January 6th Capitol riot defendants, okay? So that, and then in the 2002 Corporate and Criminal Fraud Accountability Act, part of Sarbanes-Oxley, Congress provided that anyone who corruptly, quote, alters, destroys, mutilates, or conceals a record, document, or other object with intent to impair its integrity or availability for use in an official proceeding, or, quote, otherwise obstructs or influences a proceeding, can be imprisoned for up to 20 years, right? So they've been using this Enron accounting scandal, okay, that was before that, and then using this to basically prosecute someone who was tampering with investigations, okay? And the Justice Department have taken, all of these precedents and bent them basically, and wielded them for something else, okay? So it says here, ignoring the bulk of the language about destroying evidence, the DOJ claims that the law's otherwise clause can cover for the first time participation in a riot. Do you see this word here, otherwise? That's what they mean. So they're using the word otherwise to mean whatever they like. So you came to the Capitol building to riot on January 6th. Okay, well, we think now that rioting is covered by the word otherwise. I mean, lawyers are going to lawyer, This is what they do. They just interpret things how they want. The argument of this piece and some of the people in the Republican Party is that, well, if you're going to bend the language of this to inflict a really, hefty fine and long jail time for all of these people, the 300 defendants from January 6th, because they tried to mess with the official proceedings that day, then you should do the same for Jamal Bowman, because Bowman, by pulling this fire alarm, he ended up delaying this vote, which should have taken 15 minutes, and instead, they were outside for an hour, and then basically instead of it taking a quarter of an hour, it took hours. And, people are saying, well, he did it on purpose to stop the vote, right? Because Democrats were trying to the last second to make sure the money for Ukraine is in there. And it's funny because in the end, the money for Ukraine, they all decided to put it aside for a vote later in the year, and then they just all voted for it anyway. So this whole act was so unnecessary. But this does bring up a very interesting argument about the DOJ and how they're going to deal with this situation and deal with Bowman, right? Just because he's a member of Congress, does that give him the right to pull a fire alarm and therefore mess with a vote, right? Or an official proceeding, the passing of legislation? Does that give him the right to do that? Can he get away with that? Or should he be punished the same way that people who rioted on January 6th were, because they interfered with an official proceeding? I do think it raises an interesting question. Obviously, I don't think you can compare, pulling a fire alarm to that, January 6th. And again, what does that even mean, January 6th? I just told you there are 300 cases. The point is that, they used January 6th, like they blew it out of proportion on purpose to start this like domestic war on terror, where, okay, well, because of these actions, now we have to do all of these nasty things to you. And, same logic with war on terror, like because of these bearded men and these planes that flew into the World Trade Center, now we just got to kill a bunch of million people and spy on everyone, including our own citizens. So you always have to watch out for how they wield these laws, right? And lawyers are nasty people. They play with language like, better than poets, honestly. So I do think it's an interesting question, but I don't think it's the same. Honestly, I don't know. If this was really a mistake, I would have lied and said I did it on purpose just so people don't think I'm that stupid. How can you pull that by accident, man? You work in the building. I don't know. I really don't know. The funny thing is that, when it comes to giving the weapons to Ukraine, don't worry about this. They're going to give them the money. They're going to give them the weapons. And these are just theatrics. These are just theatrics. At the end of the day, these people, they all work in the same building. They went to the same schools. They pretend like, oh, they're in. Of course, you have rival factions, even sometimes within the same party, of course. But generally speaking, these people are friends. You can see this when they vote for some of the most important things, like all this money, these trillions that they gave to corporations during COVID, or when, they started the war on terror, or now with this Ukraine war, how they march in lockstep with one another. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. There's more harmony in their relationship than anything else in the world. Like, don't think for 1 second Republicans and Democrats have fundamental differences with one another, because they really, really don't. I saw Green taking the mickey out of him. This, like I said, she's a mad Zionist, right? Like, she'll get him to say Israel is the greatest thing, and Anyway, this small clip was kind of funny.
Hi everyone, we're at the infamous Dore where Jamal Bowman claims he had to pull a fire alarm to get out. Now these doors are open on weekdays. Every member of Congress knows that, everybody that works here knows that. But on Saturdays and Sundays, they are locked, and only certain doors are open on Saturdays and Sundays. Now come on over here. This right here is a fire alarm. Nowhere does it say pull the fire alarm to open the exit door. Doesn't say that, and I think ex-middle school.
I like how she gives, she presents a goddamn PhD about the doors in the Cannon building. Okay, enough of that. So here, I want to show you this. I've been saving my favorite Okay, and my best for last. I wanted to really savor this one. All right. Now, I'm gonna check if we have new members on Patreon so I can play a crab dance and kindly oblige them. We have this is on Venmo from Jacia. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but she says, or they say, keep up the good work. Love from Melbourne. And well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And we have another one on YouTube. This one is from Stephen Hayes. Says Maui relief to those actually affected equals criminal negligent insult versus 24 billion for Ukraine because politicians are WWF World Economic Forum stooges. I mean, that's the thing, right? This is all across the board, whether we are talking about healthcare or we are talking about infrastructure or whether we are talking about disaster relief, as you mentioned. You know, in every single one of these categories, there is no money. You know, there's never any money. There's always some kind of excuse not to do it. There's always someone preventing it, like they'll come up with some villain and and say, oh, he just won't let us do it. And then when it comes to the wars, when it comes to the weapons, everybody is on board. Like I said, they're the most harmonious, most harmonious team in the world. A beautiful orchestra of corporate warmongers. The most beautiful, unrivaled, unparalleled, even in Britain. And I mean, it's pretty much the same anyway, but nevertheless, I give credit where it's due, and it all goes to to the U.S. Congress. So let me plug the show again. So guys, look, we are trying to get to 750. I need your help. So if you can spare $1 a month or €2 a month, whatever currency, maybe rubles and renminbi would be good given the state of the West right now. But and remember, ruble was the best performing currency last year. So there you go. But if you can spare any money and you want to support my work and support independent journalism, please consider donating. You can send something on PayPal or donate monthly on Patreon or join on YouTube and get some cool emojis that Claudia has prepared. Hold on. Last time I said that we don't have, who is it that we were missing? I see Castro. I see Clinton. God. Bush with a shoe. There's Maduro, Gaddafi, Alex Jones. There's Putin. Oh, it's Nasser. We're missing Nasser. Yeah. Kiara said it in the comments. Claudia, we need Abdel Nasser, the Egyptian president. It's not fair to call him the Egyptian president. He's the Arab president, right? So after that, it was all downhill, honestly, from there, unfortunately. Yes. So add Nasser, please. Thank you very much. And as soon as somebody joins on Patreon, I'll play crab dance. Now let me get down. Hold on a second. We have some more super chats here from 72 Marshflower. It says, "Land of the free? Oh man, the capital lie is the golden cage in the land of the fee, home of the slave." Okay, I'm out. That honestly sounds like a good poem. The land of the fee. Very good. And so we also have one from, I'm sorry, I must have missed this one. This from Hussein. Says, a few weeks ago there was Ukrainian insurgent army flag in the Docklands in Dublin, Ireland. The general public is clueless on fascist symbols. Once again, we have the never-ending, permanent debate of, is it ignorance, is it incompetence, or is it evil? I know what you're saying, though. I'm just saying, when it comes to some SS symbols like the death's head, which is so, this is so clear, or even sometimes a goddamn swastika, and they just they're so shameless. Even NATO were posting pictures of like a black like a sun wheel. Okay, you might argue, well, people don't know what that means, but we know what it means. And when we call it out, they know what they're doing. That's why NATO deleted it, and why Zelensky deletes the photo afterwards, because there are Nazi symbols in the background. It's like they the more they say there are no Nazis in Ukraine, the more Nazis appear. I swear. It's like every goddamn time. It's almost like, the Assad curse. They say Assad has to go, and then they end up going. Every time a Western politician says there are no Nazis in Ukraine, a Ukrainian Nazi appears behind them. So, in any case, let me show you my topic, which I was saving for the end. So, this is something that really gets on my nerves. So, those of you who've been paying attention to the war in Ukraine and who are keen observers of military strategy and geopolitics, you will know now that the most important tools and weapons when fighting on the battlefield in Ukraine are what? Artillery, so, from mortars to howitzers, and drones. These are the key ingredients to waging a successful campaign in Ukraine in this particular conflict in 2023. That's just how it is. And of course, when, we say this and we explain this, the mainstream media don't want to say this because they're not giving Ukraine enough artillery or anything to do with drones. They're giving Ukraine gimmicks. They're giving Ukraine expensive things that need restocking and make money for the arms industry. They give them tanks, right? Now Zelensky wants jets. Is there are jets having dogfights in Ukraine and I don't know about it? Are they having tank battles in Ukraine and I just didn't hear about it? What? This war is not being fought with tanks or jets. Actually, the mines do a pretty good job of substituting Russian tanks. You saw the Bradleys and the Leopards laying, laying on the battlefield in columns of smoking and twisted metal. So now, finally, after 5 months, the New York Times, the BBC, the Wall Street Journal finally have to admit the truth that Ukraine lost the counteroffensive, never had a counteroffensive. It was a miserable failure. And number two, that Russia is winning, or at least let us say holding the line. And that's why Ukraine could not retake any territory, because of two key ingredients, right? The drones and the artillery, and that Russia's formidable defenses have helped to keep all of this tightly packed. Ukraine could not get through because of Russia's formidable defenses. Russia is not the one who invented these things, but it successfully employed them in battle. I was telling you these things already about the tank traps. Once again, a tank trap is how you take a bulldozer. They have special vehicles for this because it would take forever for men to do it. You dig a trench, not for men to fight in or to stand in, but for tanks to fall into, and they are so deep and wide that they just cannot get out. Tanks can drive over short spaces, right? Because they have a track and many wheels. But if a tank falls into a space that is too wide and too deep, it cannot get out again, right? So just to show you again, a photograph of the Russian defenses, and they implemented the strategy all across, but even in Crimea, right, where there's no fighting for now. So they basically work in lines. You have multiple lines of defense to fall back to, and Russia also has a good trick that they use, which I'll get to in a second. But speaking of the obstacles in the way, if you've watched movies or you've seen photographs of D-Day, what do you have on the beaches of Normandy? You have obstacles that are there to stop any armored or any vehicles for that matter from getting through, right? And there were actually plans back then to get Sherman tanks, not German, American Sherman tanks on the beaches, and most of them sank, which is unfortunate. But my point is that rather than using those obstacles, the hedgehogs, Russia is using what they call dragon's teeth. Sounds pretty badass, honestly. It's basically a concrete pyramid, and you place them in... I'm trying to get you satellite photo of this, right? So you place a giant row of dragon's teeth, right? And then that way you make sure tanks cannot get past it, okay? So, yeah, you can see here, by the way, just very quickly, you can see here the multiple lines of defense, right? So every town or major town and city are protected by multiple lines of defense, okay? So once again, the Russians did not invent this. It's nothing new, but they did successfully implement it. Now here you can see this is from Crimea, although this is equally true for the rest of the battlefield in this conflict. The dragon's teeth are these white dots. You see them down there? So they're concrete pyramids. Huge, heavy buggers, right? Like, there's no way you can drive anything past this, not even a tank. It won't get through. Then on top of that, like, if you weren't content with the dragon's teeth, they have mines, okay? So just, you know, mines that are integrated with pressure plates. So, you know, if a certain weight, a certain amount of kilos presses on this plate, it will trigger an explosive, and then destroy the track of the tank's wheels, and which will, you know, fall apart, and then people have to get out and repair it, and then, you know, of course they put their lives at risk and might get killed and so on. It's very, very, very horrible, and you're stuck in the, you know, you're stuck in a minefield with a tank. This is a very terrible fate, all right? It's a very, very, very nasty thing, nasty situation to be in. So they'll have the dragon's teeth, and they have, of course, the minefields, which you cannot see. You cannot see them. The Russians know exactly where they place every single mine, but you don't. That's the problem. You ever played Minesweeper? that stupid game that comes with every copy of Windows, or used to anyway. Yeah. And then on top of the minefields, they have the ditches that I told you about. So again, count that. You've got dragon's teeth, the tank traps, and the minefields. Okay? So, you know, even if you manage to somehow navigate the first row of obstacles, the dragon's teeth, and you somehow manage to get past the minefield, you'll fall into a tank trap, right? Or depending on the order that they're set in. But it's you know, it's really formidable how they've been able to do this, and that's what Russia has been doing for most of the war, because the people who report in the New York Times, you know, and all these mainstream outlets, they don't understand what this war is about. They don't understand that it's you know, it's got to do with Russia protecting itself from NATO encirclement, but also Russia trying to protect people in the Donbass. Russia has almost succeeded in taking back all this territory and protecting these people. Now, just keep in mind, because they'll you know, they want you to think like, oh, Russia, Putin just wants you know, to take more territory. Dude, have you ever looked at a map in your life? Russia is the largest country on earth. I don't think Putin has even visited every corner of Russia. That is how goddamn big it is. Okay, he probably has, but Russia is the largest country on earth. I'm pretty sure they don't need or desire more territory, especially one that, you know, is in Ukraine and would anger the West. It's really the other way around. We've angered them, and now, you know, because we turned a blind eye to them, to Ukraine killing ethnic Russians in the Donbass, we turned a blind eye to NATO expansion, and you know, this is now that, you know, the chickens are coming home to roost now, and the thing is that the people who are funding this war and allowing it to continue, they're not even fighting in it. You know, they just go and let Ukrainians do the fighting for them. And so, the Wall Street Journal finally decided to publish a photo of the Russian defenses now, like 4 months late. They finally got understood, why isn't Ukraine taking back any territory? What about Russia's defenses? I mean, honestly, this looks like someone drew it in Microsoft Paint or something. But, I think this is so pathetic that they come here like 4 months late. And on top of it, you have to pay to read this junk. And they act like it's some super, special exclusive that no one has ever seen, no one has ever heard of. It's knowledge that only they possess, and we are graced and blessed by their crappy $2 a month subscription. Dude, no one wants to pay for you because you lie all the time, and you come here and act like this news, which is months and months old, is exclusive, and this is why no one likes mainstream media, because they are liars, and they literally just do propaganda for the arms industry. That's why no one likes them anymore. Not in England, not in Europe, not in America. Everybody knows you cannot trust the media. They're bastards. And I want to show you here. This is the New York Times. So look at this piece. This is from October 3rd. Okay, so this is just 3 days ago. So they say here, this tactic is, so they're talking about something I'll explain in a second, but then they say, what has impeded Ukraine's progress? Well, Moscow's use of dense minefields, networks of trenches and tank barriers. I'm so glad you could join us, my friend. You're a bit late, though. Perhaps the most formidable problem for Ukraine is Russia's large stockpiles of artillery, which have been deployed throughout the conflict, and not least to repel the counteroffensive that began in June. No, you don't say. I thought Putin invited Kim Jong-un to visit him and was procuring artillery from North Korea because he was desperate. That's what they called him. The New York Times made fun of Russia. They said, Putin, look at him. He has no weapons. He's going to North Korea. He has no weapons. Well, you're not laughing now, are you? By your own admission, Russia is using large stockpiles of artillery to impede Ukraine. The New York Times says it's perhaps the most formidable problem. Not so funny now, is it? Russia got drones from Iran and artillery from Korea. And those are the key ingredients to winning this war. Or at least holding the territory that Russia has taken so far, right? It's not just the defenses. It's the defenses and these two things. And I told you, even the Ukrainians are saying this. These are Ukrainian defense officials. The Russians have never said how many artillery shells they fire. That would be giving away intelligence, right? Even though the enemy knows to a certain degree, you don't just volunteer information. But the Ukrainians, okay? So these are Ukrainian figures. The Ukrainians said they're firing 40 to 60,000 artillery shells a day. One Western official said about, I calculated it, he said per year they're firing, so per day 27,000, okay? So whichever figure you want to take 27,000 a day, 40,000 a day, 60,000 a day? This is insane. Do you know how much time and effort it takes to produce such an amount of artillery shells? This is unheard of. Even now, with the billions that the DoD in the US is giving the plants and the production, so all these locations where they produce the artillery shells, the 155 shells, even with all the renovations and upgrades and the billions that the DoD is investing, the plants in the United States cannot produce enough to meet the same amount of artillery shells that Russia has at its disposal. And even in 10 years, they won't get there. Even in 20 years, they won't get there. The fact that Russia is able to fire so many is not only helping it hold the territory, but indicative of the fact that Russia has the right friends, understands what wins and what works and doesn't work in this particular theater of war. And also the fact that the Russians, they've been producing this for ages. They didn't just start now. Now, if this conflict goes on for 30 or 40 years, they're going to have a problem, absolutely. But right now, they're doing well for themselves in terms of stocks, right? And there's a good reason why you go to North Korea. It's smart to do that if you know that you need artillery shells. But guess what? Because a lot of the artillery shells in Korea come from the Soviet Union in the first place, right? So they work on your systems. They're your shells, basically. It's smart to do this. And the drones from Iran, they also made fun of that. Well, they're not laughing now, are they? And on top of it, they're late to the party. Keen observers knew this months ago. This is nothing new. You should not be paying the Wall Street Journal $4 a month or whatever the hell it is they charge to read something that is old and something that they only, it's like pulling teeth. They only tell you now because it's October and the spring offensive, the spring counteroffensive never happened. Never happened. Look how much territory Ukraine has taken back. Do you guys want to have a guess? Just have a guess. How much territory has Ukraine taken back? I'm waiting for the comments in the live chat. Lee's box says 20 yards. The World's on Fire says 0. Ramsey says 0. Claudia says 350. Oh man. I'll show you. Are you ready? Are you ready? This is how much territory they've taken back. Nothing. Nothing. The front line in Ukraine changed little last winter. Russia aimed to capture the entirety of the Donbass, but it only inched forward. So the funny thing is that despite admitting that Ukraine's counteroffensive has failed, and they couldn't take back any territory, there's in the Western press they still try to frame it as, well, Russia was trying to capture all of Ukraine and they couldn't take it. No, Russia is not interested in capturing all of Ukraine, you goddamn morons. It's just funny. And you keep in mind, this is something you will see over and over and over again in the media. When things happen, they'll lie about it, or they'll conceal it, they'll twist it, and then after the fact, they will finally give you the truth when it doesn't matter anymore, when it's not difficult to say it. Because if it's spring, if it's May, or it's April, and you're saying, hey, this counteroffensive is failing, it's not good. Although I will agree it's a bit too early to tell then. But let's say summer. If you are in summer and you're the New York Times and you say the Ukrainian counteroffensive is not working, you will get shat on. You will lose your job. The CIA will put pressure on you. You will get shat on. It wouldn't even be printed because it's difficult to say when it matters. Same thing with like weapons of mass destruction. No one was saying, hey, this is rubbish, because it was difficult to say it. It's easy to say it now, right? Same thing with these chemical weapons in Syria. It's easy to say at the time, oh yeah, Bashar al-Assad, the evil Assad regime are using chemical weapons, but it's not true. Even when they know that it's not true, they can't tell you the truth. This is not a free press. This is a controlled, repressive, so-called fourth pillar. This is not a free press. As far as I'm concerned, to me, this looks like, government propaganda. That's what it is. And the CIA, even 50 years ago, had infiltrated all these papers. Today, they don't even need to bother. They are literally hired on set. Like, you can literally see in the lower third, like it says, former CIA agent, former FBI agent. They don't even hide who they are. Former NSA. There's no such thing as former NSA or former CIA. That's ridiculous. So there you go. You can look here. The New York Times also said that Ukraine's counteroffensive has struggled to push forward across the wide open fields in the south. It is facing extensive minefields and hundreds of miles of fortifications, trenches, anti-tank ditches, and concrete obstacles. Yes, we know that Russia built last winter to slow Ukrainian vehicles and force them into positions where they could be more easily targeted. When both sides' gains are added up, Russia now controls nearly 200 square miles more territory in Ukraine compared with the start of the year. Since January 1st, Ukraine gained 143 square miles. Russia gained 331 square miles. So actually, not only did Ukraine's counteroffensive fail, Russia gained even more territory. So by all accounts and by any metric, any way you look at this, Ukraine is losing on the ground, and this whole war could have been avoided in the first place. It's not like, we like war and it's like watching a football match or something. No. Honestly, everybody's losing from this war because it's causing a lot of people to suffer economically, psychologically, everywhere. Prices are up, rent is up. This is stressful, and people that are being sent to die on the front lines, even worse, right? You could, of course, look at it as the catalyst for this, turbocharged BRICS, like BRICS having 40 countries applying. The coups in Niger, all these things, the multipolar world coming together definitely has been sped up as a result of the war in Ukraine and the sanctions too, and the blowing up of Nord Stream, stealing 300 billion from Russia. You cannot do these things without, causing everybody to just run the other, in the other direction. And that's what the West effectively did. Now, they've been saying, we need to give Ukraine all these weapons, and you have to just, you have to swallow this and accept that things are going to be more expensive because it's for the, it's a little price to pay for democracy, all this bullshit propaganda. And at the end of the day, what did these Challenger 2 tanks do for Ukraine? What did the Bradleys and the Abrams do for Ukraine? What did the Leopard tanks do for Ukraine? Nothing, literally nothing. Russia, as a matter of fact, Russia specifically smoked them out on purpose as a top priority, just to humiliate the West, and of course to neutralize them. But there's really no tank in the world, even if you gave them the best Russian tank, it's not going to get through these fortifications. You cannot get through this, short of using a carpet bombing and Jesus, really, you would have to carpet bomb the shit out of this, out of these trenches and tank traps and dragon's teeth, and send in minesweepers and have 50,000 men just to clear this crap. And already I'm being very, very that's too little, honestly. And at this point, you would start nuclear war with Russia, because it will be such an escalation. You need so much firepower, and you need the West. You need specifically British troops and American troops to deal with these fortifications, because the Ukrainians cannot. That you would just set off alarm bells in the Kremlin. They would correctly perceive this as an existential threat and respond with nuclear weapons. I mean, what am I supposed to say? So the idea that the Ukrainians will get through this, and even honestly, even if I'm not giving them enough credit, because if you look at all European armies right now, the Ukrainians actually have more combat experience than any European army. They just don't have it. My point here is just that you would need so much technology and so much manpower to move this. It's either the Russians can demine it themselves because they know where everything is, and they can do it, hopefully when there's peace, and very soon, or you're really going to have to use so much firepower that there will be a nuclear war. So you know, I don't know what to say except just that the media are so crap and so late and never report the truth because they're doing propaganda. They're too busy doing that. That's what's going on. And these satellite photos I showed you, these are like a drop in the water, like a drop in the ocean, honestly. It's not even close to how much the Russians have mined and fortified the front line. It's not even close. Well, there you go. There you go. So, I was also going to say one more thing. The BBC say that Western military powers are running out of ammunition to give Ukraine. Yeah, they ran out a long time ago. We've got a donation here on PayPal. This is from Mishiko. I hope I said your name correctly. That's a nice name. And they said, I learn a lot from you. Thank you very much. Well, thank you. I appreciate the generous donation. And I'm always happy when someone says that because it means I'm breaking these things down and getting them across well. You know, it's like I remember there were many teachers who, you know, you might have like a physics professor who's a whiz and really good at physics and you just suck at teaching, and it's really kind of, well, it's frustrating for everybody. But yeah, so I appreciate that comment very much. And just give me a second. I'm refreshing over here. We've got around 900 people watching. Guys, remember please to click the thumbs up button, the like button, and remember please to tell me where you're tuning in from in the comments, because I asked at the beginning, but I'm going to ask you guys again, for those of you who've joined a bit later, to tell me please where you're watching from so I can shout you guys out. So Steven says, Richard, you are doing great. Let's get you some red oven mitts and a good soundtrack. And you can bring the crab dance to blow Joe Jimmy Biden family out of his shell. Steven, thank you very much. You're very funny and very kind. I appreciate it. And the crab dance, I don't know what I'm going to put next in it. I think we've got too much of Biden, but I'm sure he'll come up with something new for us. You know, I remember with Trump, one of the funniest things that guy was really a caricature, you know, and both a character and a caricature actually. But there was this time where he was giving a speech once, and there was some kind of barking in the background or something, and he's like, "Is that a dog?" And then someone said, "It's Hillary." And he's like, oh, "It's Hillary." That was honestly funny. That was so goddamn funny. Can we watch it together? Hold on, let me pull it up. You know, it's not that Trump is better than Biden. I don't know what to say. They're really just both. Each one is more terrible than the other, really. It's just that at least if it's Trump, you get to enjoy the funny moments. With Biden, there are no funny moments. Except the why, which is, you know, I mean, that's one funny thing. But, you know, anyway, Trump's a real character. Hold on, where's the dog thing? Okay, give me a second. I'm just gonna... Let me see if I found it, okay?
Respected. Our leader's not respected. Our leader's not respected. Obama's not respected. Hillary Clinton is a joke. If she gets in, she's like a joke. You know, I turned on last night, I'm sure you saw it. I'm watching television, and I see her barking like a dog, right? No, she's barking like a dog. And everyone's saying, oh, wasn't that wonderful? Wasn't that wonderful? Isn't that cute? Isn't that great? If I ever did that, I would be ridiculed all over the place.
Wait, I think this is the wrong clip. I'm serious. I think it's the wrong clip. Hold on. Apparently, there are two dog Trump Hillary clips. Damn it. I'm trying to find it, man. There's a third one as well. How many of these are there? Oh my God. Actually, speaking of dogs and the U.S. president, what a funny transition. I'll find it in a second, but I saw that Biden had to get rid of his dog at the White House just this week because apparently the dog kept biting people. I think it's bitten 11 people, or there were 11 biting incidents so far. I don't know whether the same person was unfortunate more than once, but yeah, I think it bit a Secret Service agent, and that was the last straw. So they had to get rid of it. Honestly, my understanding is that if the dog is crap, then the owner is crap for not like setting him straight. So I guess, well, you have to blame Biden. But anyway, I'm not here to discuss dogs for more than a few minutes. Listen, I want to play the clip. I found it.
Is that a dog?
Hold on, there it is.
No, Mr. Trump, this is something you shouldn't do. What was that? Is that a dog? Hillary. Uh-oh. It's Hillary. No, Mr. Trump, this is something you shouldn't do. What was that? Is that a dog? Hillary. Uh-oh. It's Hillary.
Okay, that's enough. Oh, man. What a character, really. What a character. Okay. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin. We have a donation here. This is from, hold on. This is from Hempcar. I'm sorry, I see you must have sent this a while back, but when I was talking about the weather, the weather machine. So Hempcar says, I read on Federation of American Scientists website a government document from the 1950s era that read weather weapons could be more dangerous than the atomic bomb. The New York Times reported on Operation Popeye in Vietnam. See Dennis Kucinich Bill 8, so House Resolution 2977, more than just weather modification. The truth is out there. So yeah, you see, I was just touching on like a mild example of this kind of science and engineering being militarized and used, not just being used for bad things, but also having very, very adverse effects for humans in the environment. And I wouldn't put anything past them. I really did not think, and I don't know if it was as one of you mentioned, because of the fracking, that those earthquakes happen. I really don't know. I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised. They're always after the resources, especially in the Middle East. So I can give you maybe an analogy in Syria, because the oil fields, the oil was being pumped and extracted by people who were not the government, because it was ISIS sometimes, or it's the Americans, or it's whoever has control of it, depending on who controls it during that time in this crazy war. And these are people who do not have the right tools, they do not have the right equipment or know-how, and they're causing a goddamn mess. And not only are they stealing the oil, they are it was starting to seep into the surrounding areas and giving people really, really bad illnesses, which is again it just shows you how chaotic the situation became in Syria because of this war. So very, very, very sad. Thank you, Jihad Multiverse, for the donation. I appreciate it very much. So I hope we'll get some more people on Patreon. And if you enjoyed the live stream, if you enjoyed my work, again, please consider supporting the show. It only takes a few seconds to set up, and you could do it in pounds or euros or dollars or whatever is good for you. Again, I'm not too much into plugging the show. I just do my work, and then I trust you guys to come through, right? I depend on you guys to come through. So thank you very much. And we've got people tuning in from almost Kentucky, Indiana. We've got lovely Latin America. We've got St. Petersburg in Russia. We've got Sarajevo. We've got hold on, I'm going through the list. We've got Tennessee. We've got California. We've got Moscow. We've got Switzerland, Brazil, Kansas, New Zealand, Australia, Austria, Germany, and Ireland, Miami, Boston. Someone is tuning in from hell. My condolences. Baltimore, California, watching from Kurdistan. Which part? Turkey, Iraq, Syria, and Iran with us, and Turkey, of course. You know, I was talking about the how the situation is right now in Syria, and you know, I don't know. I think it's the Kurds are going to get stabbed in the back by the Americans again. They always do this. They always betray them. Like after 2019, you guys remember when Trump, basically Turkey took over some of the territory that the Americans had left, and the Americans knew that, okay, well, if Turkey comes in, they're going to start killing the Kurds. And even today, you saw how the Turkey blew up a power station in Hasake. They also cut off the water for the millionth time. Really just nasty shit. Like this is, you know, I don't even know what to say. It's just, you know, gangster behavior, honestly. And keep in mind, Turkey also came into Syria and deindustrialized it. When I say deindustrialized, I mean that they literally took apart and disassembled entire factories and plants, like literally down to the bolts. You know in cartoons how someone like picks up a house and walks away with it? Literally that. Like there isn't a thing that you can think of that has not happened, or rather I should say been done to Syria in this war. Not a thing. If you can think of it, some asshole did it to Syria. But you know, keep telling me about how Ukraine is, you know, the big victim here. I mean, they're definitely a victim of NATO. Yes, I agree. That's the thing. What these countries all have in common, the top three countries, you know, suppliers, sources of refugees are Ukraine, Afghanistan, and Syria. And what do they have in common? They have NATO screwing them up. That's what they have in common. That is not a coincidence. That is not a coincidence. We've got people tuning in from Oregon, from Texas, from Ireland, from Australia, Russia. We have a super chat here from Winston. It says, I normally always miss your live show. Oh, miss your live show. I was wondering for a second, what's must? I normally always miss your live show, as it is 8 a.m. in China now, and I caught the last hour. Good. I'm happy. I'm happy that you could catch it on time. I'm doing what I can to accommodate all of you, but you all live like the entire audience is like in every single country. So, you know, I think I can accommodate a more, you know, an earlier show if that works for you. Yeah, we could try and do that. And I'm very happy you got to catch me live then, and I appreciate the support. Thank you for the super chat very, very much. Yeah, so I'm gonna do what Steven said and get me some red oven mitts and a good sounding track. So anyway, guys, I appreciate your support. Thank you all for donating on PayPal, or for commenting, or for sharing the videos. These are all forms of support that are critical, that are vital. And as Trump says, is that a dog? It was still open and I wanted to imitate him. Anyway, so thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it very much. And if I'll still be here for a couple of minutes, so if somebody joins, I will play a crab dance, okay? I leave this up to you. You have a few minutes left. I wish we could get 40 or 39 more people actually to join. Vanessa just joined an hour ago, so we need 39 now. I wish we could get 39 to join, just for the sake of unleashing and unsealing and unraveling a new crab dance. So I'll leave it to you guys. Do it in your own time and in your own pace. And in any case, take care. Ma salami. Bye-bye. So you have another terrorist attack in Ukraine. This time it's the Kakhovka Dam. And the first thing the media do is blame the Russians. So let's see why the Russians would do it. They control the dam. They control the region. They need the dam to funnel water to Crimea, which is also under Russian control. They literally have zero motive. There is no motive. You know, the Washington Post in December published an article showing how Ukraine targeted this dam using American missiles, using the HIMARS system. They actually fired a missile at this dam to test if they could flood areas. Sound familiar? This is the same thing that we saw with the Nord Stream pipeline attacks, right? The first thing the press do is let's go and blame Russia. And now, almost a year later, the Washington Post finally admits that Ukraine, not Russia, Ukraine blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. This is something that I, myself, and others have been saying since the very beginning. Anyone with half a brain knew that it was not Russia. Russia would not blow up their own pipeline. But, this was dismissed as a crackpot conspiracy theory that NATO would maybe do this, or Ukraine. No, that's Russian propaganda. And another example, the Nazi patches. This week, the New York Times also finally admit that Ukrainian soldiers en masse are wearing Nazi patches to the point that Western journalists have to ask them to hide the patches before they take photos of them. I mean, this is despicable on another level. And then later they claim that these are authentic photos. This is not journalism. This is curated propaganda. So are the New York Times and Washington Post doing propaganda now, right? They're doing Russian disinformation? These people are not doing journalism, all right? You guys are a year late. Only publishing the truth when nobody cares anymore, that's not journalism, okay? They are the ones doing disinformation. They are the ones doing propaganda. And these acts of state terrorism, blowing up pipelines and dams, European leaders say literally absolutely nothing. And all they do is give more money and more weapons to an army where men are wearing Nazi patches and blowing up our infrastructure. So what's the conclusion? Always ask yourself, who stands to gain? Whether we're talking about the Crimea Bridge, Nord Stream pipelines, or the Kakhovka Dam like today, always ask yourself who stands to benefit, and you'll find the answer, you'll find the truth. So everyone's talking about how Donald Trump has been indicted under the Espionage Act. But what a lot of people don't understand is that the Espionage Act is a law that has always been used in the United States as a political tool to silence opponents. It was crafted in 1917, so during World War I, and one of its most famous victims was Eugene Debs. He was given 10 years in prison and stripped of his citizenship because he gave an anti-war speech. Ellsberg, Manning, Kiriakos, Snowden, they were all charged under the Espionage Act as well, and none afforded a public interest defense. Yet another reason why the Espionage Act is a political tool to silence whistleblowers, quite literally, even in court. Even worse, it's also being used to threaten Julian Assange, a publisher, with almost 200 years in prison. So many people are upset about Trump putting classified documents in the bathroom. I wonder if they care just as much about freedom of speech and press freedoms. Trump definitely put America's national security at risk, not for bringing home documents, but assassinating Soleimani, the equivalent of Iran's defense minister. How come Trump's critics never attack him for actual crimes, like putting illegal sanctions on millions of people or stealing oil from Syria?
We're keeping the oil. We have the oil. The oil is secure. We left troops behind only for the oil.
If you love Ukraine, if you care about Ukraine, depleted uranium is the last thing in the world that you would tell them to use. If you look at what the United States have done, everywhere they've used depleted uranium, it's like dropping a nuclear bomb, and actually worse in other ways. Just to give you an example, in Fallujah in Iraq, guess what? 10, 20 years later, there are people in Fallujah who are being born with cancer. And it's so bad that you have higher rates of birth defects and congenital heart disease in Fallujah than you do in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. In Nagasaki and Hiroshima, you knew that there was a nuclear explosion and you had to get the hell away from there if you could. The thing is, the people in Iraq didn't know what the Americans had put in the tank shells. They dropped so much white phosphorus, they used so much depleted uranium. The people living there have no clue about this. The war is bad enough without knowing that, if you live there and you stay there, you're going to get cancer and your kids are going to be born with these massive nightmarish birth defects. And now they want to bring this literally cancerous thing, depleted uranium, and use it in Ukraine. If you love Ukraine, if you care about Ukraine, depleted uranium is the last thing in the world that you would tell them to use, because guess who's going to suffer from that? The people in Ukraine, right? Like, if their idea is to liberate Ukraine, right? Okay, let's say that they do. Tomorrow morning, Zelensky's gonna emerge victorious over the Donbass and Crimea, and he's gonna go have a nice parade, right? Guess what? All the people returning to their homes, or all the people living there, you're gonna give those people in Ukraine cancer because you use depleted uranium, because this stuff goes in the earth. It seeps into the earth, into the soil, into the water. It's actually worse than a nuke, truly, because people don't even know that it's there. They have no clue that they're living next to things that are going to give them cancer and destroy their DNA and give their children massive birth defects. They don't even know that it's there. It's like a silent killer. They don't care about you, man. They don't care about you. This is bad for the environment, obviously. That doesn't even need stating. And it's bad for human beings, and it's bad for wildlife, for everyone. But it's good for it's good if you manufacture it. It's very good. This is explosive. This is mind-blowing. How do we know that it's the Ukrainians who haven't held up their end of the deal, but the Russians have? The deal was that the Russians will pull out of Kiev. At the time, the media that we have here in the West, they were saying, oh, the Russians have failed. Their army sucks. That's actually not at all what happened. The Russians pulled back on purpose and left the capital. They left Kiev because of this peace agreement. Boris Johnson was the prime minister at the time, and he just randomly happens to go and visit Zelensky. And he tells Zelensky, drop out of the peace negotiations, drop out. Zelensky did what Boris Johnson told him to do. Angela Merkel, who is the German chancellor, she says that in the end, the Minsk agreement, it was just a ruse in order to buy time for NATO to arm Ukraine. This means that, once again, you cannot take Western leaders and diplomats seriously. The Russians are done talking. This is the conclusion that I draw from this, because they have had it up to here with Ukraine and their backers and guarantors, just playing games with them. So just remember the next time that the media tell you that the Russians walked away from peace talks, that this is a lie. And when they tell you the next time that Russia wanted this war, that this is a lie. Just remember these things.
Some in Iran wanted Iran to go to war with the Taliban. And actually, they were liberals. They were the pro-Western liberals who were saying that we should, go to the defense of the Tajiks, who are Persian speakers, the Hazaras, who are predominantly Shia, and the Uzbeks and others. They together are more than 50%. Taliban is basically Pashtun. They are 40%, roughly 40% of the country. It's sort of ironic, because the people who are calling for Iran to wage war against the Taliban, they were totally against the Russians in Ukraine. Their logic is not dissimilar to the logic of the Russians. These people were saying we should go to the support of the Persian speakers. Why not the Russians support Russian speakers? But yeah, that hypocrisy is aside. The Iranian government said, look, we have to keep Afghanistan peaceful, and it's had enough war.
South Africa, China, Brazil, all these countries that are BRICS countries. So they are partners with Russia. They're not condoning Russia. They're actually saying, hey, everybody calm down and let's resolve this. And all you see is media attacking them. They attacked South Africa for proposing diplomacy. They attack Lula for trying to sit down Zelensky. Zelensky makes him wait and then doesn't even show up to the meeting. I mean, how insulting in any context, right? Never mind a goddamn president of the largest country in Latin America. So they try to like attack the countries closest to Russia for actually suggesting peace. Maybe South Africa should give some F-16s instead of being a Putin puppet, right? Maybe China should send some F-16s instead of being a Kremlin asset.